What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. It's your special deadline day little podcast or stream, as I like to call it. And tonight is me guests coming and going. So we'll introduce who I've got with me now. Joseph, welcome back onto the podcast. How are you doing? And talk to people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you again for having me, Harry. Really great to be back on the podcast. Great to be back on Talking Tottenham, and obviously a very eventful day in deadline day. Obviously for many clubs, not just Tottenham, but we've already had a lot of ins and outs rumoured through Spurs. So hopefully we'll get some of those reveals throughout this podcast. And yeah, really excited to be on here talking Tottenham. Again, thank you for having me. Great to be speaking with Chris as well. First time I met him, and yeah, it's really great getting into it, and can't wait to get talking about Tottenham.
Well, it's great to have you on. Thank you, Joseph, for your time. It's your expertise area, I would say, when it comes to transfers. So it's great to have you involved for this one. Chris, welcome on to the podcast. A bit of a regular now. How are you doing? Remind people a bit about what you do.
Yeah, it's not a lot is the usual answer to that. Yeah, I don't know. I just pop up now and then talking about Tottenham, but obviously my background is, as I know you know, Harry, is in refereeing, and I used to be a referee coach. I used to do it full time. Used to coach referees. So that usually provokes some interesting match day discussion, but we're not really here for match day discussion today, are we? So I don't think that's gonna come up too much, probably. So, but we'll see.
I think the less we can talk about that Bournemouth game, the better.
I don't want to get into refereeing today, honestly. One thing I would say, just general observation on transfer deadline day, is this is what transfer deadline days used to be like, right? I think the last few have been so boring and like nothing's happened. And today it's gone, or this window in general, it's just all gone a bit crazy.
It really has. I mean, it's been so exciting, isn't it? I mean, the amount of the deals that are getting done, it feels like this might end up being one of the record transfer sales on a deadline day with Isaac, with Guehi, just Liverpool, and then you're looking at, feels like every single moment there's another here we go from Fabrizio Romano, ones you're not even expecting, and a deal's already basically getting completed. So hopefully we'll get a couple more of those for Tottenham. We'll wait and see, but yeah, really, going to be an eventful couple of hours before. I mean, we've got 2 hours and 15 minutes before the window slams shut. So let's see what happens.
Why does the window always slam shut, by the way? Why does it never just sort of gently close? It has to slam, doesn't it? It's like
it has to slam, because I feel like there's always movement until the last moment, and as soon as it's there, it slams shut, because deals can no longer happen. It's got to slam, otherwise it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't really, does it? Because then you get in the next sort of half an hour, you get the trickling out of so and so submitted a deal sheet, and they've got another few hours to do. Oh, okay.
And then also you got half of the other transfer windows for other countries are still open. I mean, I think the Turkish one goes on for ages. There's talk, obviously, I know we'll get into it all, but Basuma, I don't think we'll see him leave today, but I think we might still see him leave in the next couple of weeks. So it's there's I guess you're right in that sense. But let's stay with slam shut. It's a bit more exciting.
It is slam shut. Yes, slams the door in Tottenham's face unless we get more done, let me tell you that. But thank you very much for coming on today. You know who I am, so make sure to follow both these guys, and if you're listening on the podcast platform, please drop a follow and a 5-star review. You'll be listening after when the deadline is closed, which I always find interesting, so you can see our reaction. You can look back and think, what those idiots overreacting at, or were they right? You can look back and give us your thoughts, and also let us know where you're listening from. But if you're listening on YouTube, this is the point, get involved because you're listening live, and do like and subscribe. So before we get into all the stories, all the chat, all the gossip, I'm just going to read over your Tottenham headlines. I'm going to talk you through from the very start of the day. When I say very start, I mean the first piece of news we got was like 1 o'clock in the morning. So pure evidence that transfer deadline day starts early. So let's go through all your headlines then to keep you up to date. Reluctant Nico, firstly in the morning, reported Aston Villa are understood to hold a significant interest in both Tottenham Hotspur stars Lucas Bergvall and Wilson Odobert. The Sun Sports say that Dominic Solanke's ankle injury is worse than Tottenham Hotspur first feared. The striker facing a considerable spell now on the sidelines and could be forced to undergo surgery on the problem. Fabrizio Romano started off the day by saying Tottenham Hotspur made an inquiry for Randal Kolo Muani in the last 24 hours, one to watch. We'll get onto that because a lot more progressed since then. We've got, again, several sources, but most notably Girona Esports, who said that Girona planned to sign Spurs winger Brian Gill, providing the player terminates his contract, though, with Tottenham. Next, Matt Law by the Daily Telegraph said that Wilson Odobert was being linked with a move away from Tottenham on Sunday, but it's more likely now that Spurs find moves for Manor Solomon and Brian Gill first on the Monday. Thomas Frank also suggested he'd like a new central defender, but finding one of real quality, but is also prepared to play second fiddle to Romero and Van der Ven is proving difficult, not easy at all. And then we got a report from Time Sport. He said Tottenham are still hopeful to bring in a forward and a central defender, although club sources say Spurs will only move on deadline day if the right players are available. It's not a given. There is no indication Spurs have yet received negotiations with Paris Saint-Germain over Kolo Muani. I'll remind people this was again at the start of the day. Then the eye papers say that Manor Solomon is now going to stay put at Tottenham. Leeds had considered a renewed move after the Buonanotte deal collapsed, but Thomas Frank has seen enough to give the winger another opportunity unless something changes later in the day. Then we've got the Sun Football saying that Yves Bissouma is likely to remain at Tottenham Hotspur this evening, but there's still strong links to him making a move to Galatasaray. That's what Joseph was saying. The Turkish window is still open afterwards. Fabrizio Romano then later said that Tottenham made contact to explore a move for Randal Kolo Muani after interest was revealed overnight. Spurs are informed that he's available and there is serious interest. It depends on the fee, though, as PSG want an obligation to buy. Alistair Gold via Football London said that Manor Solomon is understood to want to remain at Spurs beyond this window if it was down to him. The club will still listen to offers for the player, though, before all parties make a final decision. And Paul O'Keefe gave us a real piece of big news with Kolo Muani, saying that Tottenham Hotspur are negotiating with Paris Saint-Germain for Randal Kolo Muani. Indications it could be an initial loan. Then Fabrizio Romano said that Tottenham, this is straight after, by the way, had almost agreed personal terms with Randal Kolo Muani. Negotiations ongoing with PSG on the deal formula, with Spurs insisting on an obligation to buy. Then changed that to say that PSG are the ones insisting for an obligation to buy. So I don't know quite what happened there. Guardian Sport then say it's understood Manchester City's kind of situation, Manuel Kanji, is that he's continuing to want to move away from City, but it's looking likely that he's still going to stay. Then we got David Allsteen saying that Tottenham Hotspur reached an agreement with Paris Saint-Germain to sign Muani. Deal for the 26-year-old PSG striker is a straight season-long loan, no option or obligation. The personal terms is done. He's on his route to London for medical, with Fabrizio Romano confirming that, saying Kolo Muani to Tottenham, here we go, deal done for a loan move. Also saying with option to buy clause not mandatory, so slightly different. Paris Saint-Germain accepts Spurs' proposal as Kolo Muani wanted the move out of the project into the new Tottenham project. He says exclusive story confirmed. Then Fabrizio Romano contradicts himself by saying more on the Randal Kolo Muani and Tottenham exclusive story from last night. That is, the deal does not include any buy option. After final email exchange between Spurs and PSG, he says that Tottenham pay a €5 million loan fee. The Independent since have said that Spurs are still discussing a possible buy option in the Kolo Muani deal with PSG. BBC have reported the last couple of hours that Tottenham are looking to sign a central defender before the deadline. Then we got the Times Sport, who's saying agreement is now in place for Brian Gill to join Girona for €10 million, with the Times saying that Crystal Palace have registered an interest in Manor Solomon. Matej Morento says that Brian Gill to Girona is around €7 million, a slightly different fee reported there. And we've got Matt Barlow for the Daily Mail, who said that Crystal Palace had an offer for Solomon rejected by Tottenham over the weekend. Standard Sports say that Manor Solomon's representatives are working on finding a route to get regular game time for the player this evening. Thomas Frank is ready to sanction his departure as long as he feels he's not short on attacking options, both in terms of depth and quality. Crystal Palace have made contact over a potential deal. Alistair Gold via Football London said that Tottenham are willing to listen to offers of Manor Solomon, with some Premier League clubs have made inquiries today. Alistair Gold also said that other wingers are being looked at by Tottenham in the coming hours and that Brian Gill is set to leave. Sky Sports say that Randal Kolo Muani is definitely in London. He's set to undergo his Tottenham medical tonight. Alistair Gold via Football London said that Tottenham would like to move on Yves Bissouma due to his contract situation mainly. There's a bit longer to do that as the Turkish window remains open longer later into September, as alluded to by Joseph. And Alistair Gold via Football London since on Solomon has said that Spurs are in early discussions with Crystal Palace over a loan move, firstly, for Solomon. The first team in the men's team had the Champions League Media Access Day today, and Juan Byfield, 16-year-old, was included in that. Fabrizio Romano said that Inter Milan have sent a proposal to Manchester City to sign Swiss defender and rumoured Tottenham transfer target Manuel Kanji on loan. Talks are underway between the clubs. The player said yes to the possibility of joining the Serie A side. Then Fabrizio Romano quickly after said Tottenham target Manuel Kanji is joining Inter Milan. Definite. Here we go. What else have we got? Is there any more? Yep, Sky Sports said that Crystal Palace are looking to finalise a loan deal for Manor Solomon. Paul O'Keefe was asked whether Tottenham will sign a left winger today or not. He said his personal opinion, I don't think so. And Sky Sports say that one source tells them they're very confident that Solomon will join Crystal Palace. And then Independents say that Manor Solomon to Palace has now hit difficulties since the Spurs want an obligation to buy, whereas Palace only want an option. So as you can see, a very busy deadline day, not just for Tottenham, but across the Premier League. But there's your Tottenham headlines there. Let's start then with Kolo Muani. So we had there the latest news that we've got the here we go, and remains to be seen whether there is an option. What we do know is very unlikely to be an obligation anyway. But Joseph, it looks like a done deal. Are you happy with this signing?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the signing. Randal Kolo Muani, he's been a very good player throughout his career. Obviously, had a couple of hiccups at PSG, but he's had good loan moves. He obviously was a great player at Frankfurt, and last year he obviously had 6 months after. Obviously, we were rumored to get him in January, but he ended up going to Juventus on a loan deal. And he got 8 goals, got an assist in 16 games for Juve. There was a reason why they wanted to get him back. And unfortunately, they obviously, for some reason, PSG and Juventus couldn't agree a deal. And I think Tottenham have kind of pounced on an opportunity there. To get him for a year on loan is the perfect kind of situation for Spurs, because if it doesn't kind of work out, it doesn't seem like there is an obligation to buy or anything like that at the moment. And to me, that suits Tottenham really well, because if things don't work out, he can go back to PSG, or maybe we can look at trying to work out a transfer fee at that point if we were looking to keep him. So I think I don't see too many downsides with it. I do think I was in the camp of thinking that I did feel we needed another striker option. I know obviously we have Richarlison and Solanke, and obviously with Solanke's injury issues or woes at this moment, obviously we don't know how long he's going to be out for definitively. So having another option in there, one that's played in the Champions League, one that's played in European football in different countries, I think it's a great option to have. And there's a chance he comes in and he can be a lot better than Richarlison. He could be better than Solanke, and he could become our starting striker. The one thing that does worry me a tiny bit is just the fact of, are they expecting him to be the left wing option? I don't know. I wouldn't class him as that. I think he is a striker. And that's my only concern, because I feel like so far this season, the issue I've had with our team is the left wing position. That's the position I feel like we need a real upgrade. And I don't feel like Kolo Muani is going to be that type of player. So it depends on what their plans are with him. It depends on what they expect him to be. But overall, I'm very content with that signing. I'd hope, again, I did kind of want Spurs to do a bit more business within the last couple of hours of the window, but we have to wait and see if that ever comes to fruition. But I think on Kolo Muani himself, I think it's a good signing for Tottenham. I think he can be a good player. And I think, it gives some of our other players, Xavi Simons coming in, it gives him an option up front, a player to get the ball through to. And Kolo Muani is a great finisher. So I think there's a lot of positives he brings to Tottenham. And hopefully it all gets done. It looks like the medical's almost complete. Hopefully we'll get that announcement in the next couple of hours, and he'll be a Tottenham player for at least this next season.
Exactly that. Thank you very much, Jovis, for that. Simon, thank you. You just joined onto the podcast. Firstly, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
I'm very good, thank you. Appreciate you coming on. Remind people, firstly, as well, a little bit about you and what you do.
Yes, I'm Simon. I'm a director and TV producer, Spurs fan. I'm an uncle. I'm a son. I'm a brother, lover, hater. Yeah, just an all-around pleasant guy.
Lovely stuff. I'm going to throw you in the deep end here, Simon, and talk to you about Kolo Muani. How do you feel about this signing? I saw what you said on X. You seem, you're happy with this signing?
Yeah, I'm happy. I think there's a couple of different ways you can look at this signing, right? You can look at it as a signing where we're trying to replace an injured Solanke, which is the rumor that's going around out there that he might be out for a longer time. And in that case, I think it's a very prudent and exciting signing. I think he's best suited at striker, and I think he's got experience in the Champions League. He's got experience of top flight football. So yeah, I think if you look at it through that prism, it's a really good signing. I think if you look at it through the prism of him being what we get on the left side as a left winger, I think we could have done better. But then again, you have to look at it through the lens of, okay, would he improve our starting 11 playing out on the left wing? And I actually think he does. So it's an okay signing. Do I think he's the signing for that left winger spot? No, I don't. But it's a decent signing for a couple of reasons, through definitely a couple of different prisms.
Okay, appreciate that, Simon. Thank you very much. Chris, how do you feel about this signing? Any concerns for you?
No concerns. I mean, we haven't committed to his transfer, have we? So whether there's an option to buy or not seems to be a bit in dispute, but there's no risk to us, really. Although I did say that when Werner joined and Tell joined on loan, and they were just rubbish. But that's why it's good. I suppose there's no mandatory obligation to buy. But this is slightly different, right? Muani, I think, is a better class of player than those players have been. And also he did well. He did well at Juventus when he went on loan, because we were after him in January, weren't we? We didn't get him. He went to Juventus and he scored 8 in 16, I think. So I agree with what the guys have said, really, that I hope he's been brought in to play centre forward. But there's no question that the lowest point in our team at the moment for quality is on the left wing. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see him play left wing, although he hasn't really played there that much. But we're in a slight beggars and choosers situation. If we don't bring anyone else in, we haven't really got any good options, in my opinion, there. I think the more and more I see of Odebear and Tell, I'm just more and more convinced that they're not ready for this level right at this moment. So we might well see him out there. But at the end of the day, he improves us as a team, I think. I think he goes in the first team. I agree with Simon. I think he probably will automatically be our best left-wing option. I'm not sure that speaks to Muani's strengths on the left wings as it does to the weaknesses of the people that we've got. But at the end of the day, we could have got no one on deadline day. At least we've got one person in, and he's a quality signing. I think he's been a bit inconsistent over the last couple of years, but we've seen regularly that he has done it at a good level, right, for France and PSG. So hopefully he'll come in and do a good job for us. I do probably think he'd automatically be our best centre forward. I'm not a Richarlison fan. Certainly with Solanke, if the rumours are that true that he's out for 3 months, then we certainly need some strength in depth up there. And I'm all in favour of it. I don't see any issues with it at all, to be honest. As a fan base, you know what Twitter is like. I mean, we could sign Mbappe on a free tomorrow and somebody would moan about it. So I'm not really on board. I don't really understand people who are getting upset about signing Muani on a loan. We'll get into what could we or should we have done. I'm sure the window is a greater view, but just on the signing on its own. And I mean, just look on Saturday. Richarlison had a poor game. I'm not going to bash him too much because he's been quite good so far this season, but he had a poor game on Saturday. What options did we have? Nothing really. You throw Tell on, I just don't think Tell's up to it at all. So yeah, having Muani, whether he's starting and Richarlison comes on or the other way around, I think definitely improve us, which is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Chris. Joseph, why do you think the fan base are split on this? Is it because you've talked about in terms of maybe they think he could play left wing? Why is there so much I'll say disconnect or frustration, but people don't seem too happy?
I think partly you are always going to have haters. It's just social media. It's the digital age. I think you're always going to have people not happy with something. So that's just kind of what you're generally going to get online. I think the other reason, and I do think it is justifiable, is I think it's just they don't feel like it's the right profile of player that we're signing, or maybe the necessary player to sign. Because for me personally, I don't see Kolo Muani as a left winger. I think he is a centre forward. I do agree with the others in terms of I think he comes in and actually becomes our best left wing option, but doesn't mean he's the right left wing option. Do you know what I mean? I think it's there's plenty of players out there that would be come in and be the natural left winger for Tottenham. And I think a lot of people have the right worries in the sense of, Son's left and we haven't really gone out and replaced him. Now, whether Tottenham see Matthijs Tel as the long standing replacement for Son going forward, maybe they see Wilson Odobert as that player. And the thing is, Tottenham do have options on the left wing. It's just, it doesn't feel like we have an option that we trust. And that's the issue. We're going into this season and we were playing Johnson on the left wing, and that really is shown not to work, in my opinion. I don't see the quality from Johnson as much on that left side. And again, these other options that we've got in terms of Matthijs Tel, Wilson Odobert, we don't know if they're ready yet. So it just feels like that was a real pressing issue that Tottenham needed to sort out. Now, again, some of the players you brought in, Kolo Muani, Xavi Simons, they've all had moments where they've played on the left side for previous clubs. So there's, you could say you have competent cover for that left wing. And the one thing I would say is I would rather Tottenham not rush and just sign somebody for the sake of it for 50 million that they don't truly believe is the next player on that left side. So if Tottenham feel like there isn't that player out there right now in the last 2 hours of the window to get that player, then fair enough. I think we should just settle with what we've got and maybe revisit it in January if it's still an issue, or maybe, next summer. But that's the one thing I can understand. But in terms of what Kolo Muani can bring, I don't see any negatives in this deal. It's a loan deal. We're paying 5 million, I think, for the loan, which is it's nothing within football terms. I don't see the negative in terms of this deal. If he doesn't work out, he most likely goes back to PSG at the end of next summer, and we don't trigger any kind of buy option. We don't try and buy him back at any other point. If it does work out, okay, well, we can try and buy him from PSG. PSG very obviously willing to sell him. It's not like they're looking to try and keep him at the moment. So I think I don't see the negative for Tottenham. I think it's a good depth option. You look at that striker, that three strikers we got now. We've got Solanke, Richarlison, Kolo Muani. That's three quality strikers who, again, maybe they're not always going to perform the best, but they are going to, they're going to compete with each other. We're going to see these players play in the Champions League, in the Premier League. We've got options, and I think that's one thing we desperately needed. So, yeah, I'm content with the signing. It's just what happens with that left wing position. That's the only concern I have. So hopefully either we hear something in the next couple of hours, which I doubt, or it's something that we decide, okay, we can bear with what we've got on that left wing position, and we can maybe revisit this when maybe Savinho becomes available, maybe Morgan Rogers becomes available, someone who we really truly believe can be the successor to Son Heung-min becomes available in another window.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people already saying that, okay, it means we're bringing a left winger or we're bringing a forward next summer. But I think you've got to, as you say, think about short term and think about the value the player can bring. But I'm really interested to see the thoughts of a regular in the chat who's got involved in Philip King. I find him really interesting. He's a German Spurs fan living in Germany, and he obviously Eintracht Frankfurt, he watches quite a bit, and that's where we saw Muani play for a period. So he says, having watched Muani, he offers us pace, power, dribbling, and physicality as the 9 and finishing. Brings our attack to another level, can play out wide as well. He's better on the right than the left. That's interesting. Give Chell a chance as a left wing, he says. Simon, what do you make of those comments there? Philip's covered a lot in terms of what Muani can bring, his best position, and also a little bit about Tel. So if you want to unpick that.
Yeah, I think he's spot on. And I think something that we haven't really touched on is we don't know what the long-term plan is for the striker position. And if this is a kind of us looking beyond Richarlison next season and wanted to kind of upgrade in that striker position, I think it's a good signing through that lens, especially because you kind of get the chance to try this player out and you kind of marry him to the club. And from that perspective, I would have loved an option. On his strength, what I think is you have to kind of look at our attacking options through the prism of what kind of games are we going to face. And I can see him being really effective in a game where, like playing out on the wing, being an inside forward, in a game like we saw against Bournemouth, where it's more transitional. I don't see him being especially effective against the low block, where you might want to play Odeberg, or in that case, would have wanted a really top flight winger option like Savinho. But the thing a positive thing that I'm seeing with our attacking option is the fact that we can kind of, we can play a lot of different kind of options in a lot of different kind of positions. Like you can see us playing Kolo Muani at the striker position, having Xavi on the left, having Kudos in the middle, and playing Johnson on the right. You can see us playing, Richarlison in the middle, having Odeberg on the left, and having Kolo Muani on the right. And you can keep doing these kind of different type of setups. And I think when you have a coach like Frank, whose strength is to maximize the tactical aspect and to play the players in positions that will maximize their attributes, depending on what kind of games you're going to see. I think looking into that perspective, I do like the kind of options we have now, and I do think Kolo Muani, further helps us, realize that kind of ideal setup where you can change a lot of players and play them in different positions. And I also think that he is a really talented player that if we could, keep him on, and maybe Richarlison wants to leave after the World Cup with his contract running down, I think it's a nice option from that perspective. The player that I do feel is going to get hurt in it is Tell, because Kolo Muani is basically that profile, but with more experience and a little bit, further along in his development.
Okay, appreciate that, Simon. Thank you very much, and thank you, Philip, as well, for getting in touch. Please, keep watching along and get involved as well, because I know that you watch Frankfurt quite a bit, and he did play for Frankfurt. Come back to you, Chris. If you could choose, would you rather there be a buy option? Of course, I don't think any of us would want an obligation, because he could get injured or it might not go right. Same with any player, an option's always better. But if you could choose, would you rather that in there rather than just a straight loan?
I'm going to segue the chat slightly, very, very quickly. Just give you some background on, because I know Philip, as you can see from the chat. So we were friends from a long time ago. So 30 years ago. So I'm going to give you a bit of boring Spurs background. 30 years ago, when the formative days of the internet, I joined an email group. So you only chatted by email, right? WhatsApp didn't exist. Facebook didn't exist. People didn't have mobiles. So it was just an email group that went round and used to email into each other, and it was called the Spurs List. And I was on that for 25 years. I left it a few years ago, but I was just talking to him about it there, that it's still going. It's kind of been superseded, but yeah, I joined that Spurs supporters group, if you like, when Klinsmann was playing for us. So that's how long ago that is. But just interesting to see Philip. He's not German, by the way. I think he's British, but yeah, you're right. He
does in Germany, yeah.
But anyway, just thought I'd give you a little weird bit of history of how I know Philip. What was the question? The option. Yeah. I think you'd always. I don't see the point unless the selling club. I'm talking generically, not about this transfer. Unless the selling club really doesn't want it, I don't know why you wouldn't generally want to have an option to buy, because then it's just there if you want it, right? And if it suits you further down the line, you can exercise it. But so I prefer it to be there because it's kind of, there's no bad can come from having it, right? But I definitely don't want. If you're loaning anybody, I'd rather it not be an obligation, if I'm honest, because then if it goes disastrously wrong, then you're not stuck with the player, right? So I think these options, the option of buying him down the line would be good, but you don't know. I mean, he rejected us in January, right? So it makes me wonder, how much does he really, really want to come and play for Spurs, or is it just his best option today that's on the table? If it's that, or come and play at Tottenham, or sit in the reserves at PSG, maybe it's him that goes, look, yeah, I'll go for a bit, but I don't really have any interest in staying beyond the season. So you don't know why these clauses are or aren't inserted. So I wouldn't read too much into it. We don't know whether it's us, we don't know whether it's him, but in principle, I think if you're going to have any loan, why not have an option to buy? Just makes sense, really.
Can I just say,
yeah, sure.
You do wonder why. Again, I don't know if you guys talked about the Solanke thing already, but I do wonder why he wants to come here, because I do think he picked Juventus because they could offer him guaranteed playing time, right? And so his option now is to either, as Chris points out, sit on the reserve bench at PSG. But we have two strikers, so it makes me feel like Solanke might be injured, and he's been told he's gonna, get a lot of starting minutes.
Well, I think his first choice was to go back to Juventus. He'd already agreed personal terms with them to join them back. It's just obviously Juventus and PSG couldn't agree some kind of deal. Maybe it was to do with his obligation or buy option. And obviously Juventus pivoted and they ended up signing Lois Openda from RB Leipzig. So then it became obviously he couldn't go back there. So he obviously needed another option. Otherwise he was just going to be sitting in the reserves of PSG. And I think you're right. It's going to be interesting to see how quickly he comes into our squad. But I think with the quality he's got, I think he could quickly displace Solanke and Richarlison. It's not like they're both elite strikers right at the top of the Premier League. Yeah. I think Kolo Muani comes in and competes with them straight away. And at that point, hopefully we see him, really kind of go, look, this position can be mine. I think that's definitely...
Yeah, and especially looking beyond this season, right? Because, I like Solanke, I like Richarlison, but as you point out, they're not guaranteed to be our long-term starting striker. He's got a chance to come in here and make that position his own. And that's why, as Chris said also, you want that option, because you don't want him to come here, have a 25-plus season, goal season, and then PSG has us over a barrel.
I think if you look back to January as well, when he went to Juventus, you've got to bear in mind that we were in the quarterfinals, or maybe even the round of 16 of the Europa League. Juventus at the time were in the Champions League playoffs as well. So, and we were like loitering around 15th, 16th probably at the time, like losing most games. Right? So I can't blame him at the time for thinking, well, I've got the choice of these two. I'll go to Juve and play in the Champions League. So, but yeah, we don't know what options he's had.
Yeah,
they've been linked with him all summer, Juventus. So I'm not really sure why that's not happened. But
I do wonder if Simmons might have had a little bit of an influence too, because not only what it does for our brand that we're able to bring such a hyped player in, but also because they're probably friends, because they both come from PSG, right? They probably know each other from coming up. But he came from Frankfurt. No, I'm waffling. I'm sorry. They might have missed each other because Muani wasn't. Were they at PSG at the same time? Joseph, it feels like stuff like that.
They might have crossed paths. I'm not 100% certain, because obviously the thing is with Kolo Muani, obviously he's been at PSG for a number of years now, but he obviously has had time away from there. And obviously even Xavi Simons never really made it to the PSG first team. He never really had that opportunity. So it's kind of tough to know. They might have crossed paths though, and maybe it could have made some kind of impact. But I do think from what I've seen, I feel like it probably was just his best option to come to Tottenham from what he had available to him. Again, I think he was waiting for Juventus, and it was basically the case of either he was going to go to Juventus yesterday, and then once that kind of fell through and PSG and Juventus couldn't make a deal work, he was like, okay, I've got to go, I've got to try and make some kind of move. And Tottenham, being the opportunistic kind of team we are, we went in for that move straight away to go, this is an opportunity for us to get a player that we have always admired. So I think it's a good move for Spurs. And I think it could be a good move for him as well. I think there's every chance that he can become the starting striker for Tottenham this season. It's just for him to go and take that chance.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think they really played together. It's more the other way around, really. When Muani went there, he did play quite a bit the first year, but Simmons was out on loan. So, but who knows? I mean, they might well know each other, but I think it's a good bit of. I have no issue with the deal because if Spurs have just looked around and assumed he was going to Juventus, that's fallen through and gone, you know what, we need someone in. Here's an opportunity. Let's get him in. For whatever reason, he's not fully convinced on us. We're not fully convinced on him. No problem. Have a loan. That's makes sense for everybody, I think.
Yeah, it probably does. I think, well, from reports, and it probably seems the case, apparently PSG wanted an obligation, which suggests they wanted to get rid of Evan, Tottenham prefer an option, which does make sense because in every deal that we've been involved with, it always seems like we get an option or want an option. So maybe it's more the case of that than the player. But you are right. You can't be totally convinced of Tottenham if you're going to Juventus at the same time. But a couple of pieces of news to bring to you to jump in from. So Sky Sports News has taken shots of Randal Kolo Muani leaving his Tottenham Hotspur medical, which apparently is completed in central London. He was seen with technical director Johan Langer, and also Gary Jacob for the Times has said that Solomon's move to Crystal Palace is still on and is actually advancing very, very quickly. So he said that should be done before deadline day. So a couple of pieces of news to bring you there. We will come back onto them a little bit later, but I want to talk a little bit more about Muani and what this kind of means for Solanke, etc. So Simon, I come to you firstly because I was listening to Frank. I was on the way home for the Bournemouth game, listening to his interview, and he's kind of saying, look, three strikers isn't healthy, you know, it's about getting a balance. He said, I'm happy with Richie and Dom. He said, I'm not saying we won't look for a striker in a future window, but definitely not this window, was his words. Was that a bluff, or do you think something's changed with Solanke?
I've been thinking about that exact quote all day. And it's a couple of things that have made me, the Kolo Muani thing kind of threw me, because I think we all kind of expected a left winger, like a Lockman or someone like that. Especially because he's been available this whole window, and you can get him on loan. No, you couldn't get him on loan, but could get him for pretty cheap, right? I think there's three things that kind of play in here. I think the Solanke injury is something you have to kind of think about. Also, because when it comes to squad numbers, and I've been, you know how I've been tracking this whole window. But from my calculation, we could bring in two more players, non-homegrown players, after Madison and Kulusevski got injured. Now, Kolo Muani and Xavi fills those spots, right? And after that, we heard that we were going to bring in another left winger and another defender. And that didn't really make sense to me because we can't really be excluding a lot of these players that we already have in the squad. But if Solanke is injured, then that will make sense, right? I do feel. I'm sorry, I forgot what the question was.
No, so I was asking you about the Frank quote, whether you thought it was a bluff from him, which I personally don't think is the case, or if it's just Solanke.
So with Frank saying what he said, that made me think that, okay, so this is the left winger we brought in. We brought in someone that could play left winger, at least better, or at a higher kind of, with a higher quality kind of output than the options we have at the moment. And so the fact that he can play on the right wing and the fact that he can play striker is just a bonus, because it makes us more flexible and versatile. So that's where I'm at, and that's how it's looking right now. Because there's like an hour left, and I saw news from Alistair saying that we're pretty much done. It doesn't look like we're going to do any more business. So yeah. I don't think he was bluffing. I think this is just kind of an unexpected target for what we were looking for, but it's still the same thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Chris, last question. Do you think Solanke's injury is worse, and how long do you reckon he's out for?
No idea. What frustrates me about it is we've seen things like this a few times in the last year or two where we think it's not that bad, and then this happened with Van der Ven, didn't it, last year when he came back and he played 45 minutes, didn't he? And then he was out again for like 6 weeks. It's just really weird because he came on as a sub, didn't he, at City? And then he's injured again. I don't get it. So who knows?
He has like a brilliant injury streak. Like he's never injured before he came to us.
Yeah. And you know what? Richarlison was actually very similar. He wasn't quite at the stellar lack of injury record that Solanke had, but he was very rarely injured for Everton. I he's very rarely not injured for us. But I don't know what is going on with our club. But the honest answer is none of us know, do we, about Solanke? I don't know. I do think this probably is. He is going to have to play in other positions, Muani. I would like him just to be signed for a centre forward, but the critical part then is who plays left wing. So I don't think we really have any great options there. Johnson's out of place there. I mean, obviously scored a great goal at City. Johnson's a whole different debate, isn't it? Because he offers so little during the game, but obviously regularly does crop up with goals. But when he doesn't, like the weekend, just doesn't offer you anything at all. Tell and Odegaard seem to be at the level. You can switch people around though, right? We could put the possibility. You could put Simmons there. You could move Kudus into the middle. You could play Muani out on the right wing.
This is what I think. I think like if you have Odegaard, who's I think Odegaard, Tell, and Johnson are all fine players, but they're very specific in their profile. Like you want Odegaard against the low block. It's a 1v1 dribble, but he doesn't give you goals. Johnson gives you goals, but you can only play him in certain games. Tell, sure, he's something in between there, but he also doesn't really excel playing against the low block. So then you either go and get someone who could really push you to another level, or you get someone else that can kind of fill the gaps that you have, and that's what I think they did now. I think like they gave themselves another option that might be able to, fill the small gap that we have between profiles. The issue with that is that's kind of a short-term solution. But if you think someone like Lockman is another short-term solution and not someone that you want to, invest in for the next 2, 3, 4 years because it's 27, but instead you want to save your money, get a temporary solution, and then go again in January with the next window, then I kind of get it from a logical kind of standpoint. But it doesn't make you, jump out of your seat.
So this is where we never know as fans, do we? So it appears that Savio has been our main target. So just to sort of back up what Simon's saying, we don't know, but there is a world here in which City might have said, especially with Cherky being injured now, might have said, look, we're just not doing a deal now, but we could revisit it in January. So if Tottenham had some level of confidence, you can get your number one signing in January. Would you then go and splash 40 million or whatever it takes to get Lookman out when he's not the player that you ultimately want? So I kind of understand what Simon's saying. That's the difficulty, is we never know. So you will get some fans just going, Son, I think we've known Son's going for a long time. And by the looks of it, you'd have to say we haven't really replaced him. Is Tell the replacement? I don't really know. I don't really know what Tell does.
Is Sabi the replacement? Kind of, maybe. But again,
yeah, maybe. And maybe you could go and get another central midfielder. It's difficult. We don't know exactly what the plans are. But what I do think overall, it's amazing the breadth of opinions in how good a window this has been. I don't think it's been that bad, because I just don't have the expectation that we can go from where we were to being a top 4 challenging team in one window. I just think that's mad. So we haven't done as much as we could have done, but that's probably true for almost every club, bar maybe Liverpool, maybe Arsenal. But we've done a lot, and I think we've seen the quality of players. The average sort of bar has risen in this window, I think, with Palhinha, Simmons. Who else have we bought? Why am I not Tell? Not Tell. I don't include Tell in it. Kudus, yeah, absolutely. So I think we've definitely improved. I don't think we can fix it in all one window. And the biggest thing in this window for me personally, without again going too far backwards into old debates, is we've also got Thomas Frank and his coaching stuff. So for me, when you factor that in, I actually think it's been a really good window. Has it been brilliant, and have we solved every position? No, but I think we're going to have a squad now that I would expect to be competing at least comfortably in the top half, like 6th, 7th, I think that's where we kind of should be. And I think we've got a good manager that I have belief in, and I've got more excitement. I know we stunk the place out on Saturday. I fully accept that. But I've got excitement and some hope again, which I personally had lost last season. So all in all, it's so easy as fans just to sit and pick holes in it and go, well, we should have had a better left winger. Yeah, all right. But
I think that's the thing with this window. I think you could have so many different perspectives. I think you could go, we pushed a couple of priority areas down the line. Like we wanted a 6, we wanted a left winger. We haven't really addressed that long term. Okay. So you can be disappointed and you can be critical. Yeah. I think another way to look at it is, this team is a lot more versatile. And looking at what we've done until today, the only thing that could really, and I wrote about this today on X, I think if you look at this squad, and I know we're probably gonna, give this window a rating and stuff later in the pod, but if you look at the squad right now, I think it's a 5th to 7th kind of squad. It doesn't push up into the top 4. But I also think the only thing we could have really done to push beyond that 5th, 6th, 7th position is to get a star left winger. And that was never kind of Savinho or someone of that stature, like a Leao, someone like that stature. And even if we got another defender, or if we kind of got depth here or there, it wouldn't have pushed us into that top 4 kind of echelons, that atmosphere that the absolute best teams in the Premier League are. And it wouldn't have pushed us down to, a semi-final to the Champions League. So the only thing we could have done, those kind of options might not have been there. So they went for something that helps us and kind of solidifies what we can do this season, but doesn't really push us, beyond what we might expect, right? So I'm totally with you, Chris. I think it's it solidifies where we are and what we could do, but it gets us into that top end of the table, but it doesn't kind of get us up to Liverpool, City, Arsenal, and Chelsea. And that's going to take a while, right? It's going to take a couple of positions and a couple of windows to get there. So looking at it through that perspective, compared to what I said in the beginning, I think it could be pretty. You could be pleased with the window.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon, for that. I want to quickly move on to Manuel Kanji. Rumoured Tottenham transfer target is expected to go to Inter Milan. In just a few minutes' time, we're going to get onto what positions we still think we need and where there are gaps in the team in terms of now, this window, and also January. But with that kind of saying, whether we need a centre-back, etc., I want to talk about Akanji very briefly. So, Chris, I'll come to you firstly. Have Tottenham missed out on Akanji, do you think? We've maybe missed the trick here?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't have objected if he'd have come in. I imagine him going to Milan also knocks Ake on the head, and any prospect of him, I can't imagine City would let both go. But I'm not that worried. I mean, it would have been nice because it would have added quality and a bit more depth. I don't have the panic around centre back that everyone else seems to have. I accept that if we play 3 at the back, which we probably will from time to time, that you need a bit more depth for that. I'm not sure you need 6 though. I'm not sure if you got 3, you'd be really unlucky to have 3 centre backs all injured at the same time. Right? I know we were very unlucky last season, so I'm not that worried about it really. I think we'll play a back 4 mostly. So Van der Ven and Romero are going to be your first pick. I'm going to try and avoid saying starters really, because we've got so many games that you do have to rotate. I think there's no question. You can't just flog those 2 in every single game when they're fit, because you're probably just injured. But I'm not that worried. That's why I wasn't worried about Vuskovic going out on loan, because I think the worst thing you could do for his development is keep him here and play him in 2 games. I think that my dogs are going to bark now. I think that would have been the worst thing for him. So I think Vuskovic is good for him to go out on loan. I know people don't like Davies. I'm not on board with the Davies hate, to be honest. I think he's a reasonable backup. I don't think he drops too many stinkers. He might not be a world beater, but we've obviously got him. We've obviously got Danso as a decent player. Dragusin will come back in time, in maybe Christmas time or whatever it is. Takai, who knows what to expect of him. So to get a centre-back to come in, I think that's quite difficult because you're not going to have someone who's going to come in and displace Van der Ven or Romero. You don't want to annoy Danso too much. You want him to be sort of first choice. But then you also know you've got Dragusin coming back. So what's the future hold for him? Because you're going to end up in, if we signed a Kanji, then come January and Dragusin coming back, how many centre-backs do we want? So I don't have any concern. I know there was talk about getting someone in who could cover left back as well. I don't have massive concerns about that. For me, I think Spence should be our first choice left back, but you've got Spence and Udogie can both play there. The problem is between the two fullback positions, you've only got 3 who can play because Spence obviously can do both. So we probably are a fullback short. Although Davis can cover, Van der Ven can cover if we need to at left back. So I think we actually have quite a bit of flexibility in defence that I'm not that worried about it. Would I have been pleased for him, someone like him to come in at, what's he going for, like 15 million euros or something? I think that's an absolute steal. This window, by the way, is mad. Some of the prices, the one I think is the most mental that I've seen is Nick Voltemado, who's gone to Newcastle. I don't believe how much they're paying for him. Even 50 million for Vissa, I think, is a lot of money. And
That's mine. 55 million for Vissa.
So much.
1 year left on his contract.
And then on the flip side, you've got people like Gay, who I know has only got 1 year left, but 35 million is still
nothing.
An absolute bargain. And then even a Kanji and Ake, they were talking about 15 million euros. I'm like, that's nothing. Like for the players of their quality. So I'd have loved to get him in. I'd have loved to get Ake in. But we're not going to do it. There's an hour and a half left. I don't really think anything tends to suddenly appear with an hour and a half left that's not been at least rumoured to this point. So I think we are really hoping for a rabbit out of the hat if we expect anything to happen. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that's probably it. But I'm comfortable. So your question was about the defence and Akanji. Yeah, I'd have loved him. I can see why he's going. He's probably going to Milan, right? He's probably going to play there more there than he would for us, if I'm honest.
Chris, can we see the dog?
Say again?
Can we see the dog?
Oh, mate, I've got 3 dogs here at the moment.
Yeah.
I own 2. So I've got...
If we see the dog, the sound makes sense. You don't want to pick like your favorite, the most beautiful one?
She's out the room at the moment. She's in the on the landing. I'll go and shut her up in a second. So that's the bulldog. I also own a boxer. I'll try and get them on in a bit, but I'm also pet sitting for another boxer at the moment. So yeah, I've got 3 dogs right now. But
yeah, they might have.
I'll just go and silence her in a nice way. I don't mean like, don't get to shut up.
Yeah, just to be clear. Yeah, just to be clear, absolutely. No, let's move on to our window so far. We'll talk about it then before we get into some rumours that's been circulating today. So all this data is from transfermarket.co.uk in terms of the fees. So Tottenham's summer signings so far, and this is before Kolo Muani. So Kevin Danso, 21.6 million. Matthias Tell, 30 million. Kota Takai, 5 million. Mohamed Kudus, 55 million. The Alpalinis alone with a £25.9 million buy option. Xavi Simons, they say, is 51.9 million, which brings our total spend this summer to 163.5 million, not including the new signing, Muani. So that's the data so far. Joseph, what are your thoughts on the window so far?
I mean, I'm quite happy with some of the moves we've made. I think there was maybe it's been such a whirlwind of a window, hasn't it? There's been positives and negatives. I mean, the way that we've seen Tottenham kind of lose out and miss out on so many players in terms of Gibbs White, in terms of Eze, in terms of, these different players. It's been a shame, but then the way that they have reacted to it has been somewhat good. Obviously, getting Xavi Simons is such a coup for Tottenham. I'm surprised that we could get a player of his quality through the door. I think it's just the fact of it still feels like we are a tiny bit short, which is obviously the worry. You hope it won't be too much of a problem. And I appreciate what Chris is saying in terms of the defensive situation. with a Kanji and some, I think that would have been a perfect signing for Spurs. But then again, it depends what is Kota Sakai going to be. Is he going to actually play for Tottenham, or is he not ready yet? What's happening with Dragusin? How long is he going to be out for? And again, we've got to be ready for, if Van de Ven and Romero do get injured, if it will have to become Danzo and maybe Ben Davis, but then he might even be it's difficult. I feel like maybe one more body would have been nice in that defensive position. And then, the left wing, obviously I mentioned before, I think we did need a starting left winger to come in. But unfortunately, maybe Tottenham just couldn't get it over the line. They couldn't get the right player. The one that I'm still thinking that I'm surprised, I could still see maybe possibly Tottenham getting some kind of move done for is Ademola Lookman, because it seems like his relationship with Atalanta is completely done and he hasn't moved yet. I know they were looking for like a loan with an option to, with an obligation to buy. But at this point, I feel like they need him to at least get out of Atalanta. They need him somewhere else to be playing football. And I just feel like maybe that's an opportunity Tottenham could maybe try and go for if Brian Hill and Manos Solomon's deals get completed. So that would be interesting, but maybe not. I just can't see him staying there for the end after the window shut. So it'll be interesting to see if anything happens with him. But even then, if they don't believe he is the right player, then I would rather Tottenham wait and then go and visit a player, or look at a player long term that they feel like could be the next Son replacement. So it's a really interesting one. It's been a chaotic window, been a lot of positives and a lot of negatives. I mean, you've seen me in the group chat, always kind of voicing my displeasure at what Tottenham have done so far in the window. But the last couple of weeks, or the last week or so, really, it has been positive. Bringing in such quality player like Xavi Simons is great, and I think Kolo Muani is a really good signing as well. It's just, I think the four signings, or the four new signings we've made, are all very impressive and help our first team, which is perfect. Is what we needed, because last year we had some depth, but we didn't have enough quality in that starting 11, in my opinion, and we've now improved that. So it's now thinking, is there either in the last hour, is there anything else you can do to make an impact, or is that it? And we maybe have to just revisit some of those issues in a later window. So I think I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. I'm quite content, but definitely there could have been a little bit more we could have done.
Okay, we'll get onto those ratings a little bit later. So I'll unpick that, a little bit later. But Joseph, I can stay with you to move on to my next question. And I think you kind of answered it here. And that was going to be, what do we still need realistically that's achievable position-wise for 7 p.m? So I assume for you it would be left winger. Yeah,
it would be. I mean, I do think a centre-back would have been a good option as well. But obviously, I don't feel like there is anyone that we're going to be getting for that, the opportunity. I know it was Ake and Akanji that we were linked with. Obviously, Akanji going to Inter, a good move for him. I think he'll probably be playing a lot for them, and I think I understand that move. With Tottenham, I think he'd basically have the same role as he has at Manchester City right now, where he's not the starting player. He's going to be used every now and then. So I don't see the point of him having that with Spurs. And obviously, I think with Akanji going, Ake won't be sanctioned to leave either. So that's kind of those options off the table. I don't know if Tottenham had any others lined up. It didn't seem like it. So maybe the centre back is something we have to revisit if we need to in January. But in terms of left wing position, I feel like that was the position we desperately needed to. And that's the one thing I am a little bit frustrated with. I think the 10 and the left wing was the positions we desperately needed last month. Not like we needed it in the last week. We needed that sorted after Son left. And that's where it's kind of disappointing, where maybe you could have made something happen a little bit earlier in the window. But obviously, it seems like Tottenham kind of struggled with many different options. Savinho would have been perfect. Unfortunately, that kind of didn't work out. Obviously, there was some link with Morgan Rogers, but nothing really kind of came up with that. So it's I can be content enough to go, okay, if you believe there's a player that you desperately want, like Savinho, like Morgan Rogers, and you think, okay, we will look at trying to get them in January or possibly in the summer next year, then fair enough, I can be content with that. I think it's just the fact of right now, if there was a player out there that you really believe in, let's say Ademola Lookman, if you truly believe he could be a great player for Tottenham, I think they should have been trying to get that deal done. And part of me feels like the reason we haven't is because they probably don't think he is the right player to take Tottenham forward. So there's many options out there. There's many options Tottenham can look at in the future. I just don't think it will be something they can do right this moment. So I think they've left themselves a bit short in that position, but it's something that I'm willing to be content with because, again, we have got Odebear and we have got Tell, and they're both very young. And I think people are being, a lot of Tottenham fans, a lot of fans in general are very reactive. People have seemed to write off Matthias Tell, even though he's a 19-year-old kid who's shown promise and he's still got a long career ahead of him. I mean, people were writing off Richarlison, and then a week ago he scored a couple of goals and everyone started going crazy about him again. So it's just a bit like, I think we can deal with it. We've got a couple of good options on that wing. They're not awful footballers. They've got an opportunity. I've really liked what I've seen of Wilson Odebear in moments as well. I think he deserves a chance to really shine. So we'll see how they do. And then maybe it gets to January and we go, you know what? Odebear or Tell or, Kolo Muani or whoever's on that left wing has become a star for us. We don't need to go and get another left winger. Or maybe we get there and we go, look, we've got this amount of money. I mean, look, we tried to spend 70, 80 million on Savinho. We tried to spend loads of money. So the money's there. Maybe we find that player and we decide that we're going to go and trigger that kind of option. But we'll wait and see on that.
We will. Thank you, Joseph, for that. Simon, talk us through the transfer window so far and what you still think we need position-wise that's achievable for 7 p.m. So not like every gap in this team, because I want to get into that later, but something you think that's achievable.
I think, like, if you look at this squad from a big picture perspective, I keep talking about perspective, but I think that's important. I think there's different ways you can look at this. I think we need a fullback, central defender, and probably a winger. The issue we have here is that we're at the limit with what we can register in Europe. So you either get someone in on a loan, and then you have to loan someone out that we are expecting to be featured this season for us. So Odeberg, Tell, maybe you exclude Davis. So that's the three things that I kind of feel like where we are thin, because if Danso gets injured, we kind of I don't want to swear, but we kind of, if Spence, Udogie, or Poro gets injured, we have an issue. If Xavi gets injured, we have an issue. And so I kind of see what we could do here is kind of solidify a couple of things in those areas. That's something reasonable we can do, but it comes with consequences. In some ways, we made our bed with how we messed up our home ground numbers. Next season is because we're kind of forced to. We're talking about where we're thin, and Joseph rightly points out, and Chris as well, the issues we have in the back line and the midfield. But we're forced to kind of field a 22-man squad, to register a 22-man squad, because we only have one non-homegrown, one club-trained player at the club. Berval and Gray are going to be able to register them in the B list next season, which that gives us two positions in the foreign non-homegrown part of the squad, meaning we can bring back Madison and Kulusevski. But it's all this kind of elaborate puzzle right now. And so I do feel like when you look at the squad, just, from the sense of, is it balanced? I don't think we're balanced. I think, we have clear areas where we need to improve. But for that to happen, we're going to have to kind of make some other decisions. And because there's so little time left, I'm hesitant to say that that's likely to happen. You do wonder what's going to happen with Bissouma and Solomon, because that's two players that I have excluded from, contention when it comes to European and Premier League's, a European squad at least. Looks like Solomon is going to go to Crystal Palace on loan, right, Harry? and we still have a chance to find a place for Bissouma because Turkey and the Saudi windows are open for another week, right? But then, what's going to happen with Dragusin when he comes back? Is he going to be registered, or is he going to have to wait until January and then Kulusevski come back in January? Then we're going to have to make some other decisions. So I do feel I do kind of see it from the club's perspective that if we're going to bring someone in, it has to be someone that markedly improves the squad, because it means we're going to have to make this other decision that's awkward somewhere else in the squad. So, yeah. But if we talk more long term, like what does this squad really need to kind of really compete on, the top 4 for the league to get really far in Champions League? I think we need a 6. I think we need a left-sided defender. I think we need a left winger, and we need to get our players back, players like Kulusevski and Madison. So that's where I see us going in the shorter term.
Okay, appreciate that, Simon. Your insight is very good there. Thank you very much. And Chris, same kind of questions to you in terms of what you made of our transfer window so far up until now, and what is achievable for the 7 p.m. deadline. It's not a lot, but in terms of position-wise.
Yeah, I don't think anything is, if I'm honest. I'd be amazed, but very surprised. But yeah, I think it's too late now, really, to address it. We are where we are. Quality-wise, I think we're much better off. Dog's starting again. We've definitely improved on last season. Numbers-wise, perhaps not, with Son going and obviously Madison and Kulusevski and Dragusin all being injured. What do we need? I think there's a question before that. What do we need for what? Like, Simon sort of alluded to it a little bit. Are we talking about what do we need to be challenging maybe for that 4th and 5th spot? Or what do we need to be challenging Liverpool?
What do we need to compete on all 4 fronts? The club's goal.
Yeah, but what does compete mean? What does compete mean?
That's why I asked. It's subjective.
I just don't think you can go from a team that finished 17th. I accept they shouldn't have been 17th, but I don't think you can go from there to expecting us to be challenging for the league. It's just in one window, absolutely not. So if that was the question, like what do we need to challenge for that? I think we're miles away. Like I'd go.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. What do we need to be able to be competitive?
Well, I don't think on our day, like our actual starting 11 now is that bad. I think, well, we saw it at City, right? We can compete in any one game, I think, with anybody, because we've got some players now who have got that bit of magic in them, which I think we've kind of lost a bit, especially towards the end of last season, where losing had just become an absolute habit in the league, right? And almost like it feels like for the last 6 months of last season, the only games that we did win, I'm not saying 100%, but most of the ones we won are when we stuck 10 men all. Like it was quite crushing for me to watch. But now with Kudus and Simmons and Muani, I feel like, and a bit more defensive organisation, I feel like we can go to places like City and we can, against any teams, we've got a chance of keeping them at bay, because I think we'll be far more structured. So defensively, we're going to be much sounder than we were last season. And even in games when you're under the cosh, then you've got players who can just produce something out of nothing, which I think we were lacking a little bit last season. I also agree. There's a lot of agreeing going on with Simon. I'm going to have to reevaluate my position on some things. But when he was talking about Johnson, I don't know if you exactly meant this, Simon, but my interpretation of what you meant, I kind of really agreed with, which was you have to pick your games for Johnson. And in a weird way, it's almost like you're better off choosing him for the more difficult games, not because he brings an amazing amount to the game, but because if you're hitting on the counter attack, that's where he comes into his own, getting on the back stick, right, with the crosses. In your Bournemouth games, what does he bring? I'm not sure he brings a lot at all. So, but yeah, anyway, back to the point. I think with a fair run of the ball, a fair run of injuries, I think we can compete on our day against anybody. So that means in a cup competition, certainly the domestic cups, we have a chance. My concern with the domestic cups is just our squad depth, and that you can't play your first 11 players in the league, the Champions League, the League Cup, and the FA. They're going to be knackered. So that worries me for the domestic cup. So I think we need a bit of depth there. And then my question is, what does compete mean for the Champions League and the Premier League? We've got a very favourable draw for the Champions. Like, it couldn't have been better, really, the Champions League draw. So I'm kind of expecting that we should progress at least to the knockout. I thought we'd finish like 9th to 24th and go into the playoff round. But seeing the draw, I think there's possibility we could finish in the top 8. And I think by default, if you're in and around there, we are competing. I don't expect us to be getting to semi-finals and finals.
Can I add something where I kind of agree with Chris, just to give one back? On the coach thing, I think if we had this window with Ange, I would be a lot more worried. I think the fact that we have a coach that's a lot more flexible with, for example, how he plays out from the back, suddenly gives Dragusin and Danso more agency, right? They can play. It's easier to plug them in. I would have been a lot more worried about defensive options and the balance between, because I would feel like Romero would have to play every game because he's the only one that could independently, play out from the back under pressure. But with how we play more directly and more with more versatility, I think suddenly they become more usable, right? And also with the back three and stuff like that. So I definitely think positivity here when it comes to the window has a lot to do with Frank and what he and how much he can switch from one way of playing to another. I think on that point with the Bournemouth match and Johnson, like, he got it wrong, right? Because that's a game where you need, like, he's pragmatic. He can be pragmatic and he can be brave, right? And he went for a pragmatic approach that worked against City, but this was a game where we're the better team, so we need to kind of be able to keep the ball, and you need players that you can, play long to, and they can keep the ball, and Johnson isn't that, right? But then if you plug Xavi and Kolo Muani into that game, I can suddenly see him, having more reasons to be brave, right? So I definitely think the coach is a reason to be positive.
Just one point actually to make, just generally on the transfer window and those who view it more negatively, and I do take the point that we're definitely at least one short in my opinion, but I just never had the expectations we were going to sign players for every position we needed in one window, so I'm not that worried about it. But I do think those that are maybe viewing it negatively might be tainted somewhat just by what happened with Morgan Gibbs-White and Eze, because they were extremely high-profile embarrassments for us. And I kind of feel like if we were having this chat now and those two things had never happened, we were never linked with either player, I think there'd be more of the fan base right now be going, actually, you know what, we've done pretty well. But they were a tough few hours on the back of that Gibbs-White deal falling through, and then Eze. The Eze one, I mean, literally the one evening we all thought he'd basically just about signed for Spurs, and then less than 24 hours later he signed for Arsenal. That was a tough one to take. So I do think people are maybe tainted a little bit by that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Thank you. Still a lot to get through. We'll talk about potential outgoings in particular. So if we have quick answers for the next bit, that'd be great. Next question I've got for you is, if we could choose just one Spurs player in all of your eyes to sign that's realistic, within reason, before 7 p.m, who it would be. So be thinking now, because I'm going to go in no particular order. And when I say realistic, right, if you sit here and go, Ronaldo or Messi or, Yamal, then I'm not going to listen to you. But if you've got something valid, I mean, it'd be interesting to see, because I think you could all have something different. Joseph, I'm going to come to you first. I've got a feeling it's going to be Lookman, but I could be wrong.
I think the realistic one is Lookman. From the situation that we're in terms of just player, if I was having like a dream signing, I'd want Kenan Yildiz from Juventus. I think he is the Son replacement. I think he'd be the perfect Son replacement going forward. I think he's unbelievable. But yeah, in I don't think obviously that's available to Tottenham right now. But yeah, I think the only deal that we could most likely get done in an hour is Lookman, because I think we almost had deals agreed with them. Apparently, they kind of changed the goalposts a bit. They kind of moved the goalposts and wanted a bit more money, and that's what, or they wanted an obligation straight up for us to buy him. But obviously, it doesn't seem like he's going anywhere else right this moment. At least there's nothing completely confirmed him going into any other European team. I think he has an opportunity maybe to go to Turkey. Obviously, their window shuts a bit later on, so maybe that might end up being the deal they go with. But for him, I'd imagine he probably wanted to come back to England. I imagine he wanted to probably come back to the Premier League and prove himself. So unless for some reason Atalanta pivoted on their kind of obligation necessity, if they could maybe lower that to an option, I think Tottenham would jump at that opportunity. But obviously I don't know if that's going to happen. So I imagine that will be that there. But yeah, realistic, I think Lookman would be a good stopgap even for Tottenham. If he doesn't kind of, again, same with this Kolo Muani deal, I kind of hoped that's what we were kind of going to have with Lookman, kind of a player coming in who has a lot of quality. Obviously, when he was in the Premier League previously, he didn't really show his best. He wasn't great. There's a reason he ended up abroad, but with it in the Serie A, he was excellent last season. He got 15 goals and 8 assists in like 31 games or something like that for Atalanta. So he's clearly improved as a player, and I thought that would have been a really good option for Spurs. But obviously, that obligation to buy of 55 million is a lot, and for a player that you're not 100% certain on, it's obviously a bit too dear. So I think if they could somehow get some kind of deal with Atalanta where he comes in with, maybe we have an option to buy, then that would be perfect for me. But I don't see it happening, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. There's look for you, but you've mentioned a couple of names there that are interesting. So thank you, Joseph, for that. Simon, for you, one realistic signing for Tottenham, exactly bang on an hour to go, 60 minutes till the window closes.
Loaning Ake. Buying Ake.
Okay.
I think that where we are right now, I'm more worried about what would happen if like Romero got injured than I am about anything else. Yeah.
I totally share that with you. If I'm honest with you, I think I'm not sure I want a left winger. I mean, I just look at, we have 3 fit centre backs, 3. And you're absolutely all right about Dragusin, but Frankson is 2 months away from returning. He might be close to being in training, but 2 months away from getting on that pitch. You cannot have one defender get injured, and Frank doesn't have the option to go to back 3.
Yeah, then you don't know like at what level is it going to be when it comes back. I feel like that with Levski as well. It's going to take time for them to become match fit and all of that.
Well, I mean, you could have even said we should have probably tried to get another creative midfielder. You could have got 2. The fact that Maddison's going to be out for the whole year, and we don't know how long Kulusevski's going to be back until he's going to be back. Like, you could have probably got another one of those. Like, I know
that's what Frank said. I remember he saying.
Yeah, well,
I think it was after the
ended
game.
up going to Stuttgart for a loan with an option to buy of 25 million. I'm surprised Tottenham didn't have a look at that one, because even then, like even with Maddison and things like that, players are kind of getting on a bit. There is kind of going to have to be a turnover of players, especially in that midfield at Tottenham coming soon, with Bentancur, with Maddison, those type of players. So,
and especially because we don't have a backup for Kudus, and we've seen he's been reluctant to play Kudus in the middle. Like if Kulusevski was back, and you could see him kind of, and you saw him using Kudus more, then in the middle, then you could kind of I see it, but you're totally right.
I just think with the centre back situation as well. I think that I understand what Chris said about Vuskovic and obviously needing an opportunity to play. And I completely agree. I think he does need to start and he needs to play a lot of football. We've got a lot of football to be played here. And if it's the case that, we have got a lot of games and they believe that he has got the potential, he can be a top player. I would rather see him at centre-back than Archie Gray. you know, if it ever came to that, you know, we'd rather see a natural centre-back. And he showed a lot of promise in pre-season. He did play well. There's no reason why, even, let's say 6 months, if it was the fact that we needed him for 6 months and we could have loaded him out in January, if he wasn't getting the necessary game time. We've seen that Tottenham have done that many times where they've had these players playing in, you know, within like training with the first team, playing with the under-21s, having opportunities with the first team when they come there. I just think maybe it was a good option, but you know, they loaned him out, fair enough. And you've got to see, because again, you've got Romero, Van der Ven, Dragusin, who's coming back from injury, Danzo, and then Kota Sakai. And then I guess you could say maybe Ben Davis. That's around 6, but it's again, who's injured? Do you class Ben Davis as a centre back, or is he kept as a left back? It's very, you know, and is Kota Sakai even ready? No one really knows if he's ready for the Premier League or ready for first team football, because he hasn't even been, apparently since he got here, he's been injured. So it's going to be an interesting one to see what Tottenham, you know, if it becomes an issue, what do Tottenham do? Because I'd rather not see Archie Gray at centre back again. As much as he tried his best, it wasn't his natural position, and it didn't really work out for him.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I've got a little bit of breaking news to bring, and it doesn't directly involve Tottenham, but it can. And it's a name that's been mentioned by Joseph. And a bit of news on Lookman then. Florian Plattenberg for Sky Sports News has said the Dharma Lookman will not join Bayern Munich as expected. The deal is now off. He eventually said that it was actually quite advanced. So there we go. Could Tottenham make a late sweep with about 56 minutes to go? We'll have to see. Chris has jumped, so I'll wait for him to come back. So for now, we'll move on to the next question. We'll ask him about who his target is. But for now, I want to say about what we'd rate it out of 10, the window, with Muani, without Muani. So forget why, just the number for this, so we can move on to outgoing. So the first question is, if we sign or sell nobody else apart from Muani, so this includes Muani, right, to be clear, we get him through the door, what would you rate the transfer window out of 10? Joseph, I'm going to kick it off with you.
Yeah, I think I'd give it a 7. I think I'm more content than I was about a week ago. It has just come through. Fabrizio Romano said that Randal Kolo Muani just signed his contract as a Tottenham player. So I think that's confirmed now. Obviously, just waiting on like a club announcement for that. But yeah, I think I am somewhat content after a lot of disappointment. Like Chris said, you know, we had 2 real embarrassments for a fan base, as a club as well. I think it was 2 really disappointing situations. But I think how the club has responded in terms of getting a player like Xavi Simons is very impressive. And I think Kolo Muani's a good deal for Tottenham. I think Paulinho is a really good deal. Player on loan who's, again, who could end up becoming a permanent signing, or could just be, again, a bit more of a stopgap. And then Kudus was a great deal as well. So I'm very pleased with all the signings we've made. It's just maybe one more would have taken it a bit further up, and it would have put us about a 9 out of 10. Because I think that's all we really needed. Maybe that one left winger. And then if you got a centre back, I think you're kind of sitting there going, okay, we did everything we needed to do, and we're in such a good position. And Frank can't have too much complaints about his squad. So yeah, I'd give it a 7. I think there was a tiny bit more Spurs could have done, but I've got to say I am quite content with how we've done it. I think in the way Tottenham have acted, I would give it about a 5 out of 10. I've been really disappointed with how the club has gone around their transfer business. But at the end of today, I think I'd give it a 7.
Fair enough. And Joseph, what about if we didn't get Muani today? What would it be out of 10?
I'll probably keep it at a 5. I think you know, I'm not even saying that Kolo Muani's, you know, the perfect player. I think he's a good player, but it's just we needed another body in that attack. We needed somebody with quality in that attack, and that's what hopefully he'll bring. I think if he didn't have that, when we saw it against Bournemouth, there was very little being created within that midfield as well as up front. We didn't see much quality. And the one thing, you know, I heard Chris say about, you know, you need those moments of magic. I don't personally feel like Tottenham have a lot of that in this moment. I don't think they have a lot of players that can just kind of magically get you out of a situation when you needed to. I think, you know, previously when we had Son and Harry Kane, there was moments where they just come up with a goal out of nowhere, and they give you that moment where you need it, give you kind of some momentum if we're not playing very well. I don't think Tottenham have many of those players right now. I think maybe Kudus can be one of those, maybe Xavi Simons can be, but we're yet to see it fully in terms of a goal scoring situation. that's what I kind of thought we needed on that left wing. I think that's what we really needed, a star to come in and to be that player. And it doesn't feel like Tottenham could have got it done in this window. Maybe if they acted a bit earlier on, or maybe they could have got the Savinho deal done, maybe that could have been it. But unfortunately, we're going to be going into this window without maybe that kind of magic stardust that we kind of needed. Again, we'll see how it goes. You know, we've got, again, a lot of players with a lot of potential, and maybe they can become that and show that. And then we'll see, you know, what happens in January. Maybe we'll make a big move for a left winger.
Lovely stuff. Thank you. Oh, Aaron, welcome onto the podcast. How are you doing? No, I can't quite hear you. Try again.
You right?
Yeah, we can hear you now. All good? You all right?
Yeah, all good, mate. Ready for the last hour?
Yeah, absolutely. Ready for the last little bit. To bring you in on this, Aaron, we're talking about what we'd rate the window out of 10 with and without Muani. So I'm going to ask you, firstly, with Muani, you know, it's done pretty much. What would you now rate it out of 10?
So now we got him through the door. I reckon we're looking a lot better now. Obviously, I feel like there's still some places we could have improved on, but from everyone's expectations that we've had from this window, I reckon probably a lot of people's expectations have been exceeded. So I don't think we could be too harsh. So I reckon with him through the door, we're looking probably 7. I'd give it a 7, which is quite a big jump. I gave it a 4 last time we spoke. I think since then we've obviously got Xavi and Muani through the door. So it's a lot looking a lot better now. So yeah, I'd say 7.
Okay, thank you. And what about without Muani? For some reason, it fell through. Or it didn't happen today.
Without him, to be fair, I probably would have given it a 7 even if he didn't join.
Okay.
Because I don't. It's a straight loan move, so I reckon that's got to be linked to a Solanke injury that's happened. And maybe it's longer term than we thought, because I don't see any other reason why we'd go for a straight loan. So I reckon, I'd probably still give it maybe bump it down to a 6, just because everyone was going to be expecting something. So it would probably be a bit more chaos if we didn't get anyone through.
Probably would be, wouldn't it? No, that's fair. Thank you very much, Aaron. Joseph, you have to jump. Thank you so much for coming on. Tell people where they can follow you on the socials. Yeah,
thank you for having me, Harry. Obviously, you'll be listening in all the way till the deadline shuts. So thank you for having me on. Again, you can follow me on Twitter, JosephTHFC. Please do. Obviously, putting out my own kind of thoughts and comments on there. But obviously, again, hopefully we'll be back on the channel soon and can keep on talking Spurs. And you never know, maybe we will find another deal in the last 50 minutes. I hope so, but we'll wait and see if that comes through.
Let's hope so. Yeah, 50 minutes ago. Thank you, Joseph. All the best.
Thank you. See you later, guys.
See you later. Thank you. And Chris, before I let you jump, I've got one more question to you that you haven't answered yet. Well, 2 really. And one is about what you'd rate the window out of 10 with Muani, and the other, as you know, is without.
It doesn't move the dial massively for me, hugely. I think I'm more positive about it because I include the fact that we got Thomas Frank and his backroom staff in the window, which is a moot point, right? You could say, hold on, the window's just about players, and if you're judging it on that, fine. But for me, that was the single biggest thing we could have done, and we did do, and we have a manager that I believe in. So for me, even if we'd assigned no players, that would have given it a reasonable mark. But I think we've done all right. I've got in players of a level of quality that we haven't seen for quite a while. We've got in a few of them. Are there gaps? For sure there are. Have we got the depth of quality? No, but you've got it. It's got to be incremental, right? You can't just go from one place to another like that. So have we made steps forward? Yeah. Ultimately, the bigger question for me is this one window in isolation, or is this a demonstration of a change in strategy going forward? So I don't expect 4 players, 5 players coming in January, 1 maybe or 2, but are they going to be of this quality that we've seen this window, or are we going to revert back to signing 18 and 19-year-olds for 40 million who only ever played in the Championship or whatever? That's the bigger question at play for me, and that feeds into the whole ENIC debate, right? I've been ENIC out for a long time. I try not to be very reactive to things. I try to be measured over and judge things over a long period of time. So one good transfer window doesn't change my mind when you've got 25 years behind you. But if they can demonstrate this going forward, then I'll be much more on board. And I think we can work our way back up the table. So I don't think it's a perfect window. I think we're woefully short at left wing, like really so badly short. Our lack of quality there is painful. So I feel like we could have done a bit more to bring somebody in. But we've got a massive number 6 in that we haven't seen for years. That in itself is a big deal. In terms of Simmons, I think we've been a bit unfortunate in seeing our 2 main creative players both have long-term injuries. We've reacted to that. We haven't left it, so that's fair enough. We've actually got a winger who could hold the ball up and take his man on, which we haven't really got before then. I know Kulusevski sort of takes his man on. I think Kulu wants to play centrally, really. Be interesting when they're all fit, exactly where everybody fits in. But so Kudus is a level of player we haven't seen. Paulinho is a level of player we haven't seen. Muani, I think will be hit and miss, but when he's hit, he'll be really good. So I'm really positive about it. I'm going to give it a strong 7, 7.5. Can I do half mark? 7.5.
Of course you can. Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, like a Savio would have made this. I mean, to get like 10, if we'd have got Savio and someone else coming in to give us more cover at the back, Anake or whoever, I'd have been saying I don't see how we could have done much better. Although that said, I mentioned earlier about transfer fees and how some of them blow my mind at both ends. Like, I can't believe how cheap some people are, and I can't believe how expensive some are. I'm going to add one more name that I didn't mention. I cannot believe how cheap Donnarumma is as a goalkeeper. I know we're never going to compete with Man City, so it's absolute pie in the sky, but I'd have, oh my God, because I'm not a Vicario fan. As well as he did play on Saturday, let me give him his dues. He was the only really decent player we had. But long term, I'd like to see us get a keeper. I'd have loved to see us get him, but of course he's gone to City. But 30 million, 35 million euros for basically the best keeper in the world. I don't understand this transfer window. It's so baffling. But yeah, 7.5. I'm more positive than I am. I think it's the best window we have seen for a long time, if I'm honest. I couldn't even tell you when was the last window we had that was better than this. Couldn't tell you.
Yeah. No, it's a very good point. But Chris, thank you so much for coming on. I know you have to jump. We can do one in, one out now, a little substitution. Where can people follow you on the socials though, lastly?
You've upgraded in quality by getting Aaron on, and then I'll head out now. Now the proper big hitters are here.
No, you're all good. Thank you, Chris, for coming on. Have a great evening.
All right, take care, guys.
All the best. Bye. Bit of a dodgy substitution, if you ask me. On comes Callum Stubbs. I think he'll be immediately substituted back. We need to use the concussion sub. But Callum, how are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's been a long old day, hasn't it? And it's been really, really tiring. But we're getting there. We're 45 minutes from the deadline, and stuff could still happen. There's a small chance of it. Something could still happen.
That's what we want, in a way. As long as it's good stuff, it is what we absolutely want to happen. Tell you what, Callum, before we move on, because we're just going to end the discussion, but I want to get your thoughts. I was asking to rate the window out of 10, firstly with Muani, and then secondly without. So what do you rate it for you? Obviously, knowing that 10's the highest.
I think without Muani, it's probably about 7. I'd say probably about an 8 now with Muani. I still think we are short. I know me and you have spoken quite a bit over the window H, and obviously the last couple of days saying that realistically a left wing option would have probably been better. The Muani deal seems to be sparked by this background chatter of Solanke and different people like that with this potential injury happening. I still wanted Savinho, Rodgers or Lookman, but they're probably ships out. But I think that if we just base it on what we've got, it's not been a bad window. We've actively improved in the 6. We've improved in the right wing position. We've improved on realistically the attacking mid option as well. We've got our long-term option for 10 now, and we've got a short-term option for striker, a reasonably priced loan. I just think left wing and left centre back, we have got gaps there. And I think it was shown by having Spence and Johnson play there, who actively want to play in the same space. And I don't think should ever play in the same line up again in the same positions. Let's put it that way, on the same side ever again after Saturday.
Love that. Absolutely love that. That's very true. Let's move on then to some potential outgoings. I want to talk about Brian Gill first. Looks like a possibility he's going to Girona. And we're hearing different fees reported from different sources, 8 million euros, 10 million euros. Aaron, either way, I mean, it sounds awful to say, but is it a good fee in the end? I know how much you paid for him and what a bad deal it was, but it looked a little while ago that we'd be struggling to get 5 million euros. So would you be happy if I said to you now 10 million euros?
Yeah, but I think it's probably about time. He was. Everyone's been ready for him to go for a while now. Never really got himself going in a Spurs shirt, unfortunately. I know when we got him, everyone was excited that he was going to be this dribbler we were looking for. But it happens, I guess. He never really turned out to be what we thought it would be, and those type of transfers do happen. So yeah, as you said before, we're going to be struggling to even get a deal for him. Talks of contract terminations and just letting him go. So the fact we managed to get a fee for him, I think, is probably the best option we could have got out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Ignore these two in the bottom. But thank you very much, Aaron. Tell you what, we'll stick with you though, Aaron. Why do you think it didn't work out? Is it a case of maybe some players aren't right for the Premier League?
Well, I think, yeah, when you think of Brian Gill, I do think he's very La Liga, isn't he? I think that's where he's going to play best. He probably doesn't have the physicality for the Prem, and I guess that happens with players. That doesn't work out. They can't quite hack the Premier League for whatever reason it may be. But yeah, I don't think the Premier League was his best decision he's ever made in his career. I reckon he can do a lot better in somewhere like La Liga.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Aaron. I mean, he's going back to Girona. It looks like, because he did play there before online. Callum, can I get your thoughts on Brian Gill? I mean, is he one of our worst signings, would you say? Consider 25 million we paid for him and Eric Lamela going the other way.
Realistically, it has to go down as probably the worst transfer, I would say, in our history. I mean, at least with Ndombele, he did contribute a little bit, not much, but at least he did contribute. But realistically, yeah, I mean, how can you pay 30 million for a player, then you send Eric Lamela, who's rated 15 million, the other way? So the transfer representing 45 million outlay, you then loan the geezer back within 6 months. They get both players. We get no loan fee. It's a joke. It has to be a joke. And realistically, I don't think we can do anything with that. But Simone, obviously, I'll bring you in, mate. It's been a while, hasn't it, since we've been on? But I mean, what do you think of Hill and the transfer? Because I know me and Aaron have covered it, but what's a joke it was, wasn't it, mate?
I mean, I try to be respectful for my elders, but because I haven't been a fan for 40, 50 years, so they're fans that have been following the club closely for longer than me might say something else. But yeah, I have to say that it has to be. I mean, it's the worst signing I've seen since I've followed the club more closely. And I think it's exactly what you're pointing out: the fact that we gave them Lamela and paid, and the fact that he started how many games? 5, 4, something like that. So for the amount of money we spent and the amount of playing time he's had, yeah, it's probably up there. But I'm happy he's gone, and I'm happy we got something. I mean, especially considering it looked like we were gonna just release him and not get anything, but now we get £8 million. I mean, I think that's pretty solid. It helps. It's something, and it also looks like he's going somewhere where he'll play and have the career he probably deserves. I think it's like Aaron alluded to. It was just a bad fit. This league wasn't for him, right? Yeah. And he was, he was hyped, when we got him. So hopefully this gives him a chance to get his career back on track. So, yeah.
Okay. No, thank you very much on that. That's on Brian Gill then. So we move on to other players now that could make a move away from Tottenham. Next one is Mana Solomon. Callum, I'll come to you on this one. Do you think he'll stay or go? There's been a few tosses and turns in there, different things. Going Palace. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Do you think it'll happen in the end, go over the line in time?
With this one, there's a couple of different options at the moment. So it seems to be Leeds for trying. They've dropped away. Palace obviously wanted a loan or an option. Spurs said no obligation. That then dropped. It looks like that one is progressing, but there's another link of Porto being there as well. Apparently a plane could be chartered out to Portugal for that. I'm not sure when the Portuguese window ends, but it can't be far off of R1, to be honest. So I think this one will happen. It's just to where he goes. I don't think anyone's really sure at the moment. But if we can move him on, I think realistically we probably should be happy that he leaves because he was a free transfer. He hasn't really done it at Spurs. He has proven last year that he's more a championship sort of level player. I'd say good luck to him and move on. And I think the problem with Hill and Solomon today, they are what has declined or delayed us making any other moves in light of other stuff happening, which is unfortunate. But if we do move them on, then that's two less problems to worry about, if you get what I mean, mate.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Thank you very much. Just want to talk briefly about this one. Aaron, I mean, Callum makes a good point. We're making a profit either way, so it feels like a bit of a no-brainer to kind of say yeah to a fee.
Well, yeah, when we signed him, I guess no one really, it was quite a shock. That's probably the first free transfer in ages. Don't really get them too often for a Premier League club bringing someone in on a free. So I reckon being able to sell him on for a profit, it's no harm done apart. There's obviously been a lot of off-pitch stuff that I haven't read too much into, so I guess there's problems there as well that he's had. So it's just, Solomon, he's been a walking problem since he's joined us, to be honest, on the pitch. And yeah, he's clearly proven where his level is. So I reckon the fact we can get him out, get a fee, happy days for us, I think.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. Simon, anything to say about Solomon and his proposed move to what looks like at the moment Crystal Palace?
I mean, I think I was a bit worried when I woke up and I saw the news that we were keeping Solomon, we were not getting a left winger, and it looked like, and also we saw him on the bench this weekend, and I kind of felt like, okay, here we go again. Someone has told Frank to do the best he can with what we got. I mean, I don't think he's good enough to actually. I don't think he's better than Odeberg or Tell, and so he would have been left out of the European squad, and he wouldn't have played. And he would just sit on the bench, and his value would have gone down. I'm disappointed we didn't sell him because I think after the season we had at Leeds, that was probably. I don't think his value will improve a lot. I think it's at this height of what we could have got down for him. But I'm happy we got him out at least on a loan. If we got him out, it's not done, right? It's Crystal Palace. It looks like Crystal Palace, but it's not.
No, it's not done.
Whatever.
They seem to be struggling, doing a lot of deals today, to be fair. They're having grief with the Gahey one now, getting replacements for him. They wanted Igor from Brighton. He failed a medical. He's now going to West Ham and has got himself his own medical bench ready, to be honest. He's inherited the one left over from Wiltshire. So, I mean, realistically, Palace have their own problems. And
it's off topic, where you feel for Glazner, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, Parish is. I mean, we all say that Levy could hang Frank out to dry. I mean, based on what we've done now, the last couple of days, we're a lot happier than we were, say, 7 days ago. Whereas you look at Steve Parish, I mean, he's proper hanging Glasner out to dry. And I mean, there's already bookies odds for Glasner to move on to other teams.
He's proven he can do. He's proven so much with so little.
Won the FA Cup.
So it's. I mean, oh God. I mean, I would probably resign if I was him, but
We couldn't have been clearer either that he wants to keep Mark Gahey. as he said that, if we want to, he actually said today, if we want to continue to win things and go somewhere, we have to keep Mark Gay. I've never seen a manager.
Can you imagine if Levy did that to Frank after he won a trophy and done everything? But I mean, our fan base would have been
good. No,
so,
but you can't be clearer.
Another team had just joined the race for Manor Solomon. Bloody Benfica are now in for him as well. Jesus Christ. Why couldn't they do it earlier?
Yeah, I've just got here a report from Team Talk that says Benfica have entered the race with Manor Solomon and pushing hard to beat the competition. A plane is ready to bring him from London to Lisbon in the coming hours to finalise his move from Tottenham. The player is assessing these options. So that suggests to me that, that report anyway, that maybe Palace is all of a sudden not an option. I mean, Palace have got a lot going on. I don't think they've sorted it very well. I mean, the fact that they tried to go after their rivals Brighton, their centre-back, because they didn't have a replacement lined up. Now they said to Mark Gay, hang on. The man from Brighton we wanted isn't going to come. It's just a complete mess at Crystal Palace. So there's always someone worse, the way I look at it. But Callum, can I ask you one last thing before we move on from Gil? Do you think he'd do well, though, back on Girona? Just to copy back to him.
Yeah, I mean, his loan there previously was pretty good, and they sort of like that silky winger type. I mean, they had Savinio before, didn't they? So sort of tricky wingers, which Hill can do the nice footwork. So I reckon there's probably a positive to him going there. I think he'll probably do well, to be honest.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So we go to Basuma next, and this is something that we spoke about. And Joseph, who was on the podcast earlier, made a very, very good point. The Turkish window is open later, so it doesn't necessarily mean after today that Basuma is going to be a Tottenham player for the whole of the season at all. Aaron, I'll come to you. Do you see him staying? Do you see him leaving? What would be the best outcome as well? Because part of me thinks, look, bad attitude, get him off the books, turn up late. We don't want that in the dressing room. Frank doesn't want that. Then I also look and think Spurs aren't going to sign a replacement, are they?
Well, we're definitely not going to get a replacement now. But you say bad attitude. He had a great relationship with Ange. We saw that when he left and all the messages that they shared, the exchange when Ange left. So you could say he has a bad attitude, but he clearly can do something right. And we have seen him put in a good few performances, albeit not enough, which is fair enough, and not consistent enough for the level we want to be playing at, especially this year, Champions League again. He's probably not at that level. But there is a proper player in there. So half of me is disappointed that it hasn't worked out and that he looks like to be getting frozen out almost. I don't know if he's injured or what's going on there. But we won't get a replacement in now. So if he does go, it will just be the case of clearing up the squad a bit. I also think if he did stay, it wouldn't hurt if we can get those performances and build that relationship with Basuma and Frank up like they did with Ange. Then I think he could be a player not consistent, wouldn't be starting, but I reckon he put in a few good shifts for us, so it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
No, okay, thank you, Aaron. Simon, how do you see this going for you? Do you see Basuma leaving on a free maybe next year? Do you see him going in these final few days of the Turkish window?
I think he's gone. I think it's gone. I think we I don't remember what happened with Galatasaray, was it?
Yeah.
For him? What happened with that deal? Callum, do you remember?
He failed the medical.
No.
He failed part of the medical, and they had questions over his attitude as well.
Oh,
so that's why, and they couldn't agree personal terms in the end over that. So.
Yeah, the reports weren't there. The reports were saying that, well, some were saying he failed his medical, some said he hadn't. But what was interesting is they said they want someone who's ready to play now and in the right physical state. How do they word it? Right physical state to be able to compete at a high level now. And they deem Basuma not ready to do so. That's quite disappointing and quite open, isn't it? That he's not ready to compete at a high level physically. I looked at that and thought, wow.
It's really weird because it's been part of our preseason. So,
yeah.
I mean to be fair, everything that everyone else did.
He picked up that injury, I think, just before the start, and then he obviously got chopped out for different bits. So, I mean, the good thing is at least
fitness could be him having injury issues. Okay. Oh, makes it.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is at least the Turkish window doesn't close until later on in the window, or later on in the month. So we've still got time to ship him out, to be fair. And I mean, a lot of players, I think, that don't get their move now will probably look at Turkey. I mean, there was the stuff with Lukman earlier saying that Galatasaray were looking at him as well.
I mean, it's not good at Galatasaray. I mean, it's Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, and Besiktas, right? It's off. It's usually those three clubs, right, in Turkey that come in for a place, and having one of those already been in and out, and it's not great. But I can't see him staying and just sitting on the bench, because I do not see Frank using him. Not with Polinia, not with Sarr, Gray, Bergvall, no. So, and I think he just needs to realize that, and as soon as he does that, I think he's out.
Yeah,
not today.
I think
it's out.
I'd say realistically, you'd probably be looking at it that he would go elsewhere and hopefully reinvent himself. The problem is he just needs to get his head down and be a consummate professional. That's the whole. We know there's a player there. It's why we bought him from Brighton, but I think he's 28 or 29 now, so he's around about my age, and he acts like he's about 10. It's really, really silly things that he does. It's not what you'd expect from a sort of professional. But if he does go and does well, then good luck to him. But realistically, I mean, the problem is 3 of them teams that you've named, Simone, they've sacked their manager within the last week, haven't they? As well. I mean, we all took the P earlier today, saying that 3 teams have got rid of 3 ex-Man United managers in a matter of a week. But it kind of shows as well that even the Turkish league is summing up to these guys and saying, no, you're not as good as you think you are, and that probably these players are as well.
Ten Hag one's ridiculous, though. Let's be totally honest with you. Whether we think it's a good appointment or not, 2 games he had, and they sold his best players.
Yeah, apparently that was over disagreements with the board. That's the thing. That's what the sort of going line has been. Disagreements with the hierarchy. He wanted to keep certain players. They've sold them on.
Who can blame him? You know, they've sold literally everyone. He come out and said, I want to keep Granit Xhaka. Granit Xhaka will be a Bayer Leverkusen player. Well, within 48 hours after he said that, he was on the plane to Sunderland. So, you know, I don't think that was done very well.
What is funny is that it's been 3 weeks, and 3 ex-Manchester United coaches are the ones that's been fired. Tells you a lot about how their scouting department.
I mean, it is quite ironic, Chloe. You go from winning they won the Bundesliga last year, didn't they, Leverkusen? So you go from there to rocking up at the Stadium of Light. I mean, what does that say as well? If you rock up at Sunderland, I mean, I'd rather stay in Germany, to be honest. I mean, no disrespect to Sunderland, but it's not a very nice place. And you rock up there, unless they are paying you mega money to go there. And I think that's probably what it's going to be.
Let's be honest, he'd be the highest paid. He's got the captain's armband. So there's some things to convince him there and get back in the Premier League. And I mean, he didn't leave the Premier League in the nicest way, did he? You know, throwing the armband on the floor. Was it throwing the shirt on the floor with Arsenal?
Kicking, I wonder how many players have still got boot marks in their legs that are still in the Premier League since he was last here and all that. They're probably thinking, oh my God, I'm dead if I'm going against him.
But you know what? It probably says a lot about Ten Hag, though, that players are maybe making moves away. Do you reckon maybe that they're not happy with him?
Well, to be fair, he didn't really have too many fallouts at United, did he? I think, what was it, the Sancho deal, maybe he fell out over, but I think every manager's fallen out with Sancho. But realistically, I just think everyone's kind of caught on to Ten Hag that he's not as good as he actually thinks he is. And realistically, the same with these managers. Mourinho causing grief at boardroom level again, typical. Solskjaer, just crap. To be honest, he's not at the level what you want. So, I mean, this is why I'm kind of glad with Frank, because he's very down to earth, pragmatic manager, and I'm kind of glad that we got Nuno instead of Ten Hag. To be honest, and that's saying something. I mean, he didn't make us proud, but I don't think Ten Hag had made us any prouder either.
Nor do I. And talk about Nuno. Does anyone think that he's gonna? I think personally, walk out or be sacked in the international break. I don't think he's going to be Forest manager come the Blitz play again.
I reckon he'll probably just disappear somewhere. Marinakis will just eat him or something like that. It'll be a happy meal for that geezer.
Be a starter, as they call it. Oh, maybe even that. Being kind, little side.
Freaking hors d'oeuvre. It'd be an hors d'oeuvre, mate.
Indeed. There's a lot going on back at the club, even away from transfers. We've got the Champions League prices we released. We'll get into that maybe a little bit later. New quotes dropping from Vuskovic. Going to read them out now. Vuskovic said, they offered me an option to stay to play in case of injury or cup matches, but I wanted continuous minutes. They have Romero and Van der Ven playing there, two of the best centre-backs in the world at the moment. I believe in myself, but it's really difficult to play next to them. I faced them and I realised that I still have to work harder. A lot of work and little luck, so I'll be back. That's the first quote. And the second one is about why he chose to join Tottenham over Manchester City 2 years ago. He said, I didn't want to just be a number. At Tottenham, you told me what they expected, all offered in terms of sport, and that prevailed. They put me first. That's interesting. There you go, new quotes from Vuskovic. So basically saying he'd be a number at City. It's not wrong, is he, I suppose. But
I think it's a really honest and great way of looking at it. And I was kind of surprised about, how honest the communication to him was. Like, you're going to play, but it's just going to be this, and you can choose if you want this or something else. And he definitely did the right thing. I know a lot of people have been complaining about him leaving, but to me, you have to kind of separate what's best for the long term, the development of him and what we want him to become, so he can come back and really help us, and what's what we need now. That those kind of players are something different.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, the last 2 seasons, he's had probably 60 to 70 plus games. And this guy's only just turned 18. So, I mean, I would have loved to see him stay around. But if he's only going to get 10 to 12 cup game appearances, it's better that he goes to, is it Hamburg that he went to, I believe?
Yeah.
So if he goes there and gets 30 appearances in the Bundesliga, plus another 5 games in the German Cup and the other competitions, and that's going on 40 plus games. If he can get that, that's really positive, and he'll come back as a better player, because realistically, unless Romero and Van der Ven are getting injured, they're going to be the firsts. Danso's third. Dragusin will probably be fourth. So Vuskovic was still going to be 5th choice, unless we went full back 3, which we don't think we're going to. I think it's a positive move, and for someone at 18 to actually make that decision for the betterment of his career shows a professional, because he could have just sat there for easy money at Spurs, but he actually wants to go and play football. And it shows the great thing about his attitude that Luka Modric just raved so much about, say how positive he is and how grown up he is. So I think really, really positive quotes from him, and a really good professional.
100%. I think it's very good of him to admit that and to say that. It's like Garnacho and Chelsea. Okay, you're just going to be a number, aren't you? And you hear the things that come out of Chelsea as well. Where else have we got? Bergvall, then, apparently from like lower down sources saying that the likes of Aston Villa are interested. So Callum, can I stick with you? I mean, Bergvall, I would ask you, would a loan help him? But I think we're all going to be in agreement here that he should absolutely be staying.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we got rid of Bergvall, that would leave us right short in midfield, to be honest. It's a no-brainer. It's a squad problem that wouldn't solve itself, to be honest. I think he will do well under Frank. He is Scandinavian. We've got a Scandinavian manager. He honestly very much rates him. He's very much been wax lyric about him. So I think I know all of that came out last night, and that's because they were speaking to Villa about Rodgers to see who was going to come, who wasn't. And there was about 4 names that were discussed, and it was Basuma, Bergvall, Odebear, and Johnson in there. And Spurs pretty much said no to Bergvall and Odebear straight up, unless it was a loan for maybe Odebear. So, yeah, I think it's a non-starter, even from the get-go, to be honest. And for him to stay around, we need him realistically, and I think that for us to go forward, we need to keep him sort of going properly and making sure that he develops into an 8 or a 10 very positively, and that's where I see him going forward this season. Got enough games for him, so he needs to be used.
That's true. Do you
he
see
was the best player at the weekend. He was when he came on. he was. I think, yeah, he came on. He dominated. If he was starting from the start, I think it would have been a different story. And he showed that a lot last season, especially because he obviously player of the season, wasn't he? So doing that at that age is quite mental. So yeah, definitely good idea to keep him around. But also, I reckon he's well into that spot. I think he'll be fighting with Sarr this year, so it's not an easy task on his hand after how he started the season. But yeah, that hopefully should improve them both and get them both kicking on. So definitely good that he's stayed around.
Thank you. Appreciate you chipping in there, Aaron. Simon, what did you make of his cameo on Saturday? I mean, I'm personally in full agreement with Aaron that he probably was our best player on the pitch in that second half.
Yeah, I can only agree with these guys. I mean, I think it's less about, we want to keep him. We need him. Like, what he offers is something totally different to what Sarr offers and to what Gray offers and Bentancur. Like, when he came on, and why he probably should have started is that he really helps us progress the ball from deep. And with Polinia being more of a destroyer and someone that's a bit more limited on the ball, you need someone like Gray who's got that bravery to be able to receive the ball between the lines and turn and not, and do something special with it and do something and just gets us, helps us keep possession and gets us up the pitch. And that's why when he came on, we looked so much better. Both him and Odeberg kind of contributed something new on the ball, something on the ball that we really need. And that's kind of my whole point with what we've been talking about in the attacking areas. We got, different profiles for different games and different state of games and different positions. And we have a coach who has the ability to play different ways. And so I think it's amazing. I think it's really important that he stays, and it's a great that he is staying. I do think we got to get a bit used to good players of ours getting linked to other clubs. That's what happens when you have a squad has a lot of players that are really good but might not play every game every week. So yeah, I wasn't surprised seeing that Villa likes Bentancur likes very well, because who wouldn't like very well? But I was never worried that it was on its way out.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Simon, I will stick with you if you don't mind, and move on to Odeberg, because there's a few outside kind of conversations, rumours that he could have left. Apparently Sunday night is looking a huge possibility he could have, but I think good job he didn't in the end. So Simon, why haven't we seen much from Odeberg in Spurs shirt? I think it'd be fair to say that we all want to see more from him.
Yeah, I think there's two sides to this. I think, first and foremost, we've only played 3 games. It's really early in the season. I think he will feature much more, both him and Tell, when we get into the, more hectic parts of the season. We've got a lot of games coming up after this international break. And I think we've got a lot of weeks where we have 2 or maybe 3 games per week. And it's going to become impossible for the likes of Kudos and other, more experienced players to play every minute and every game. So that's part of it. I've been surprised. And the other part of it is this balance that I think Frank is, getting used to, which is when to be pragmatic, when to be fake, and when to be a little bit more brave with his picks. I think we saw like this perfect balance when he had one lineup versus PSG, when he went a lot more pragmatic, and then switched to being a lot braver with his picks in the game versus Burnley, where he had a younger midfield when he played both Bergvall, Gray, and Sarr. And I think he probably got it wrong against Bournemouth. That was a game where we probably would have seen Odeberg. And if he would have picked that kind of lineup, I don't think we would have asked that question. And that's a testament to how few games they've been. I do think, Tell and Odeberg are going to have to prove themselves this season. I think, it's going to be up to both them and Frank. He's going to have to be brave and pick them, but they will have to, show us that, they deserve to play, and no matter, how young they are, they will get that chance. But I think it's important that us fans are a little bit patient and realize that, Oliver was injured for, most of last season. We haven't seen him. So, declaring now that he's not good enough or he hasn't shown us anything, I think that's unfair. And Tell, played in a really bad team for a lot of games. He hasn't had the perfect circumstances where he's been able to come into, a team that's clicking and in games that really suit him. I worry a little bit more about Tell than Odeberg. We might come back to that, because I do feel like Odeberg has that, especially now that we haven't brought in, an out-and-out winger. I feel like you have one for me.
Get a drink.
I do feel like because we haven't brought in a left winger, an out-and-out winger, I think that helps Odeberg a little bit because he's our only left-sided 1v1 specialist, right?
Yeah.
He profiles differently than Kolo Muani or Tell or Johnson or Richarlison or whoever you want to pick out of our forward options. So I do feel like in games where we know we're gonna have most of the possession and play against a really low block, I think he's going to be, one of our go-to guys together with Kudos. So, yeah, that's my really long answer on how I would do Odeberg.
No, that's absolutely fine. Thank you very much, Simon. Aaron, could Odeberg be that left winger? Because it's very unlikely to get someone in. At the time I was speaking, we've got, dead on 10 now, minutes left of the windows. You're not going to sign left winger. Is Odeberg the one?
Oh, well, I probably wouldn't say he's going to have to be. He's going to have to be the one. It's going to have to be him or Tell. I guess I'll be honest, quite disappointed that we haven't got a left winger through. That was the talk through the whole window. I would have rather that than a striker. Some people are going to say that he can play, that Muani can play on the left and right wing, but I'm not going to say that he can play there. I'm going to say that he has played there, because I don't really think he can confidently play on the left or the right. He's definitely a striker, and that's definitely why we've got him. But yeah, Odeberg and Tell are going to have to stand up this season and going to have to start showing what we signed them for. Because I mean, a lot of hype around the signings of both of them. Are been left a bit underwhelmed by Tell, because obviously everyone was so hyped over that transfer. Everyone really wanted him, and it was a massive deal when we got him. And then he's never really shown the heights that we all thought he could. Obviously, I think this one is patience, wait it out, and I reckon he can be a really good player for us. We just got to see him getting those minutes. Once these cup games start coming around and he starts getting his opportunities, hopefully that gives him the chance he needs to push on to get him in the squad. Because I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of Brennan Johnson. I know he scores goals, but I can't watch him try and take on his man for a whole year. I really can't do it. So I'm gonna have to see Tell or Odeberg just so I can see him at least attempt to try and take on a man. So I'm not bored to death watching Johnson. But yeah, that's my opinions on that.
Love it. No, thank you very much, Aaron. Callum, we missed out on the likes of Eze, Gibbs White, and Hikape. I hate to bring
You're
it
not
up.
bored when he scores, are you? What?
Oh yeah, I guess moving to the box.
No, exactly.
It's 90 minutes in the game.
Lovely stuff. Callum, what went wrong this window in terms of players that stopped us and rejected us? I hate to bring it up, but it needs analysing.
I mean, one was held at gunpoint and threatened to have his family kidnapped. So, I mean, that sums that one up. I mean, what did we do? 2 bids, especially over the release clause, and realistically, that one was dead. And I mean, the fact that we then got all what we thought it was, that we was undercut, we was sideswiped by Marinakis, was quite true. I think with the Eze deal, that one was the Gibbs White one, I would say, wasn't our fault. The Eze one, I think we were slow to react, but I think that the fact that he sort of actually called up Lego Head down the road and decided that he wanted to give him a chance to come in. I mean, Spurs did all the groundwork. We put it all together and then it collapsed. It doesn't really help, does it? I think the Eze one was probably Spurs' fault more than the Gibbs White one, to be honest. But then when we look at other players, a lot of it's been speculation, hasn't it? Kanji, Ake, Lukemi, Fofana, Lookman as well. They've all just been tentative talks. It's never been advanced at them two. So I think they're the two most advanced ones. And then Savinho. I mean, Savinho, I don't think was our fault either. It was just that City wanted Rodrigo. He didn't want to leave Real. And realistically, you'd need 70 million to cough up there. I think we did try for him and Rodgers, but it's been a window of lost players. But I'm not particularly disappointed because realistically, we've got Simmons, who's 5 years younger than Eze, 15 million less than what they paid, and probably has a higher ceiling. But you know that I love Eze. So if we'd have got Eze and Simmons, that would have been a 10 out of 10. The same with Gibbs White. It's just, we'll always look back and think, what if? Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But it's been a window of ifs, buts and maybes, I think. But we say that about Spurs in every window, don't we? We wanted Muani back in January. He didn't come to us. Now we've got him. We wanted Simmons earlier in the window. He wanted Chelsea. Now he's come to us. So I think it's just a little bit late of what... I think it's later than people would have liked, if you get what I mean.
I think this is the window I've been most conflicted about because it's had these highs, but also these really low lows, like the high of getting, that high of signing Kudos and then Morgan Gibbs White the day after. Like that high was amazing, right? And then 1 day or 2 days later, it's really low because we had this complication. And then this high again when Eze suddenly becomes possible, and then it's low when we lose him, and then it's high when we get Xavi, and then tonight we put her in, like we get Kolo Muani, we also don't get someone else, and so I think the players who've gotten in are really good, but then you have these missed opportunities as Callum points to, and also, we're so close to having a really, really amazing window. So there's disappointment around that. So yeah, I'm happy with the window, but you can't kind of ignore the elation that you kind of feel like we've been nibbling, but didn't really get. So that's why it's a little bit complicated, right?
Harry, okay. Could I ask a question to both of you?
Of course you can.
It was something I heard on TalkSport earlier. Liverpool have obviously had the best window out of everyone, and they've pretty much put it into three. They've had 3 windows in one based on what they've spent and what they've gotten in. Do you think it's fair for us to measure our window against theirs, or do you think we just have to focus on what we've done and no one else?
Do you want to answer Simon first?
Yeah, Simon?
I mean, yes. Yes and no. I mean, we have to kind of realize kind of our limitations compared to these top 4 clubs in terms of what they can spend. And I don't mean, City, obviously, they have really rich owners, but Manchester United and Liverpool and Chelsea, their revenue is just way more than ours because they have a bigger fan base because they've been around much longer, so they have more room. and more money to spend. So in that sense, it's unfair. But then out of those examples, Liverpool is probably the club that's most like us in a sense, right? They don't have, these owners that will spend extreme amounts every window all the time. I mean, FSG do get a lot of complaints from Liverpool fans, which I feel is always kind of it's funny to me. But then they can go out and do this because they do have, like, I think Liverpool and Manchester United are clearly the two biggest clubs in almost world football, together with Real Madrid and Barcelona. So in that, we can't really do exactly what they can do, but I do feel like they show us that we could probably get closer, like if we wanted to. It shows that they are desperate to win, right? Because they didn't have to go out and get Isak after they got Etitike. I can never say his name, right? It shows something there that has to do with more like their owner's ambition. Because they could have just said, this is all right. Look, we've got, Frimpong and Etitike, and we've done all these deals now, and we're clearly up there amongst the best. Then they go like one or two steps further. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, I guess. How about you, Harry?
No, it's a good question, Callum. I'm going to say yes, because of the fact we've got a chairman that sits here and goes, we want to win the Premier League and Champions League. Otherwise, I go no, because our aim this season, let's be honest, is completely different to Liverpool. With the squad they've got, the signs they've made, even before that, with storming the title last year, you go Liverpool, they have to really win the league. They have to be competitive to the latter stage of the Champions League, ideally win it. They need to be winning trophies, especially the pressure's ramped up now. Onslaught, they stormed it last year, Liverpool, and they've really done well in the window. So as much as you want to say no, because I hate comparing to clubs like Arsenal. People do it all the time, and I go, they want to win the league. We're not really interested right now in winning the league, but because of Levy's words, which is really weird, and I think a PR stunt. I think a lot of it comes from Vinay, in my opinion, the CEO, in terms of the idea and saying the right things. So I like some of it, but you can sit here and go, under Frank, I want to win the Champions League and Premier League. Oh, I don't expect it now. He's dropping subtle hints that, well, it'd be great if you can win the Premier League and Champions League now. Then you don't back it up in the window. We can all sit here and agree you probably had a decent window in the end, but it's not to the level of Liverpool. It's not ready to win the Premier League or Champions League. So to answer your question, I think you have to start comparing to the best teams in England because you want to be like them eventually.
No, exactly.
Yeah, because you don't think, because I think we can all agree we haven't done everything we can do. For example, we know there's money for a winger, like because we've offered City 70 million something for Savinho, and we haven't spent that money, right? So we know we're being cautious and careful, and like we have a different mindset. So we can be more aggressive. I just don't think we can, we're not like for like exactly with Liverpool, Chelsea, City, and Manchester United specifically. Arsenal, we're closer to Arsenal than we think, I think, in revenue and stuff like that.
No, exactly. I mean, the window is just officially closed as well. So we are dead and done, I think, realistically now on incomings. But I mean, I have just seen that Liverpool have submitted a deal sheet for Gahey, so it looks like that one will go through potentially in the next couple of hours. A couple of collapsed deals are being reported as well. It looks like Disasi to West Ham has collapsed, no deal sheet submitted. There's a few others. It looks like Nicholas Jackson has gone through in their one as well, which is one of the most confound cluster. That's a cluster mess of, without me swearing, that is just an absolute mess of how they went. But I mean, I was looking at it, and realistically, when you think we've done Takai, unknown, so we can't really comment on that, but we've done Kudus, an immediate improvement on right wing. We've done a 6 upgrade, at least for this season, potentially to look at longer term options, maybe of Hackney and Watson in January or next summer. We've got our number 10 in, who is a very good option and most definitely a very good across the line option, I think, where he can play across that front 3 or 4 with then Maddison and Kulu to come back in. Muani I wasn't too keen on, but he is a good option as a front man or a left winger as well. And if we do play him up front, we can play Richarlison on the left. Solanke, we've obviously got to find out about his injury. We've got Telwyn on a permanent, Kudus on a not Kudus, Danso on a permanent. Spence extended his contract. Romero extended his contract. Mikey Moore signing his first professional contract with us as well, and other youth players doing it. I don't think you can't poo-poo the window. We know we want more.
When you list it like that, it's really good, actually. It's kind of good. It's good, right? We haven't fixed everything, which is, I mean, how much emphasis you put on that is up to every person, but you can't poo-poo this window. Exactly.
No, exactly. And when you look at how many other clubs are probably going to say they haven't fixed it. I mean, look at Palace. They've been calling for their owner out for the last 2 weeks. Man United, glaring issues. Newcastle have spent all of the money of Isaac already on Visser, who's 29 for 55 million, who they've had their pants pulled down on, and Voltamida, who just looks like the upfront version of Mustafi or Badstupper and all that. That doesn't really inspire confidence to me. I think, yes, we are short. We probably could have done with better options on the left wing and a left back. But when you look at the options, Lookman was always going to be, I think, a short-term option, wasn't he? And Ake, if we was to go for him, they was only going to be short-term options, I think. So if the club have got longer-term ambitions, you never know.
Could we declare that it's okay to be nuanced as fans? It's okay to say it was good. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. Because I do feel like there's this not habit, but instinct where we want to go. It's success or it's a failure, and it can't be something in between.
I mean, realistically, I think we have to say we've probably got to be happier about this window than we were last year.
Yeah,
if you get what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
I'd say like there's, to me, I rated it this before you came in. I rated it as a 7 out of. I didn't rate it. I wasn't on, but I would give it a 7 out of 10. And the reason I don't go higher is because I think I give it 1- for the left wing not being addressed, 1- for the fullback position not being addressed, 1- for the central defender issue not being fully addressed. I think that's reasonable. And then I have to look like a little bit at the balance, when it comes to we don't have a backup central midfielder, like an attacking midfielder. We're a little bit wonky when it comes to having a lot of left wing options and not a lot of right wing options. So there's issues with how many people. There's issues like in squad balance and the fact that we can't register more than 22 players and stuff like that. And we could have done more to address those things. So I can't say it's perfect, but it's definitely a little bit above solid, right?
Mm-hmm. Just to hop in, so it's not to do with Tottenham, but it's a really interesting situation. The Sun Football now contradicting the whole reports of Mark Gay, saying Mark Gay stays at Crystal Palace. It's very
okay.
It's literally just come out. I just refreshed now, so there we go. I mean,
just quickly add on to Simone's point. I think a 7 or an 8 is probably where I sit at. I think our main problems were the long pursuits. We probably lost about a month worth of time in the Gibbs White and Eze saga. But I think our worst thing's been our inability to move players on. I don't mean the loans. I think the loans from the outset look pretty good. I mean, I know some of our young players aren't getting games, but I think the inability of us to sell players again has been highlighted. I mean, the Sonny fee I thought was quite fair, 25 million, 1 year left on his contract. That weren't too bad. But selling Brian Hill last day of the window, Solomon getting stuck with a 4-way tussle over a loan with an obligation, Basuma not getting the money we wanted, Richie realistically not getting stuff for them. I think that's where a lot of other clubs have benefited more than us. Like Arsenal have got big fees, Chelsea have got big fees. Liverpool pretty much funded their window by selling players who realistically are crap, and they've got good money for them. It just seems to be Spurs are that bad at selling.
You know why I find that confusing? Because last season we sold I remember I made a big deal out of it, because I was worried about our outgoings last summer. And we sold maybe 12 players in 8 months. So we were really good at selling, but we couldn't bring anyone in. So I'm starting to suspect that we can only do one thing at a time. So we have an issue with ingoing, we keep bidding for these players that won't come. And that takes up all our time, so we don't sell. So we seem incapable of doing both. While Chelsea can do, they can sell 100 players and bring 100 players in for 2 different clubs and have no issues, while we have Levy going. Fans don't realize how difficult every transfer is. So there is something in that. Because when we had Pertici, we had a really hard time selling. But clearly, Lange showed us that he can sell players. But he can't do both, right? He can't do both at the same time. It's really confusing, actually.
Maybe having both of them from their official roles going forward will be better. I've just seen a funny one as well on X saying Harry Garland to Nottingham Forest has collapsed after sending the deal sheet 9 seconds after the deadline.
No,
their facts. They missed it by 9 seconds.
Who's going to tell Nuno that?
Ouch. Oh, don't. What? That's really going to kill him.
Am I a bad person if that makes me a little bit happy?
No. I think we all agree that pretty much the Palace. I don't think we'll be doing any deals with Palace realistically or Forest for a while, to be honest, unless Solomon does go through. I think there's a lot of bad blood there between the 2 clubs at the moment, at least at board level.
Yeah. I mean, I said this earlier, and I just want to reiterate that I kind of feel like this was a 7 out of 10 window for a couple of days. I'm glad we got Kolo Muani. I think that really helps our window. But realistically, this is our aim should be 5th this season. I don't think we have a squad that's top 4.
Mm-hmm.
And to get there, I think we're gonna need at least a couple of 2 windows, right? Because Arsenal, City, Chelsea, and Liverpool are so good right now. Their squad depth, quality they have, it's just they're in a league of their own, I think. And we need, at least 3 more players into that starting level, and that markedly improve us to kind of get there.
Yeah, just quickly to add on, Harry. The Sky Sports have just said that the Manor Solomon's Crystal Palace deal sheet has been logged, and the same with Kolo Muani as well. So deal sheets are logged for the clubs to complete or at least move on them deals. I believe they've got up until about 9 or 10 o'clock to complete them.
Right, okay. That's fair enough. No, we're going to wrap up there. I just want one word from both of you to describe Tottenham's transfer window. So if you're thinking, I'm trying to think for myself, I don't know. I'm going to use I think I'm going to go with chaotic. So I can say quite a neutral start. I think it's been a good window, but it could have been so much better. Simon, what word are you going for? What do you think? You're on mute. What are you thinking?
Confusing, maybe.
Good one. I like that one. Confusing. Thank you, Simon. Callum, what about for you?
Messy.
Yeah, that's fair. A lot of crazy sagas, but we got there in the end, and that is a transfer window shut then for Tottenham. So quick reminder of the players that we have brought in before we do wrap up. So I just want to go through them all. So for Tottenham in the 25 window, summer window, Matthias Tell, we brought in Kota Sakai, Mohamed Kudus, Yao Pelini on loan, Xavi Simmons, and Randal Kolo Muani on loans. There we go. Let's know in the comments below what you think of the window. But that wraps us up nicely for this episode on Transfer Deadline Day. Thank you to every single guest that has come on tonight. I've got 2 with me now in Callum and Simon. Callum, I'll come to you first. Where can people find you on the socials?
You can find me at Callum Stubbs 97 on X. You can find me on Spurs Diehards, obviously on Harry's channel as well at Scarfey Spurs Talk. But obviously, been a long summer, but it's been fun, and now we all need a well-earned rest.
Absolutely, 100% that. Thank you very much, Callum. A good deadline day in terms of Tottenham signing someone. It could have been a lot worse. And we had the news from Matt Law from the Daily Telegraph this morning, waking up to that Tottenham will not sign a player. Well, two things up to him. Simon, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you.
You can find me on X, Simon Yamana. And that's about it. I want to thank you guys and all the other guests that I've been, lucky enough to have a conversation with. Look at me. How blessed am I to get to hang out with these beautiful boys, these Spurs fans, these legends of men. So, yeah, I'm happy to be able to finish my day like this. And, come on, Spurs.
We're always happy to have both of you. So thank you very much. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please drop us a follow and a 5-star review. I just love the thought that this gets you after the window is closed, which it has now, and you can look back at the reaction and be like, I think we're going to sign a player. I don't think we are. And you can see how it all unfolds. What a beautiful position to take, probably on your way to work, on your way to school. So big up. I think that's amazing.
I mean, I think it's worth just mentioning that, like with all windows, we'll know in 6 months if it was good or not, right?
Yeah. Exactly. We won't really know, but big thanks to everyone in the chat who's contributed. If they're listening on YouTube, please do like and subscribe if you're still in here. And that is a transfer window shut then for Tottenham, and all the rumours will start again as we get closer to the January window. It's hard to do business there. I'm sure we'll hear that from the club coming very soon. So from me. For now, though, thank you for bearing with us, and a massive come on, you Spurs.